All right, welcome to the stream, the fourth qualifier of the Rise of the Mortarchs. And so yeah, we have our first matchup underway. If you'll be able to see our bracket so far. So we have Ronin and a Rubber Duck of War is going to be our first matchup. We have Iron General, and the next spot is going to either be Viking or Hadries in our final slot, as they are playing right now. But we are going to be starting off with Ronin and a Rubber Duck of War, who had a nice little King of the Hill the other day. So we're going to switch on over to the battle here, and we will be getting underway as soon as everyone else is readied up. So yeah, for the first, I guess, picks and bans, we just kind of go over that real quick. So Ronin had first picks, and let's see what he had. So we had Ronin going Empire, banning Dwarves, and if it stops moving on me. So banning Dwarves and Coast. Actually kind of interesting for the Empire there, doing that pick. And then a Rubber Duck of War obviously went with the Lizardmen, which is, I think this is a very even matchup. So we will get the show started right away. And so yeah, for those who are not aware, this is the fourth qualifier of the Rise of the Mortarchs. I guess we can take a look at our current. So this is our current list of Mortarchs for the final. We have Imperator, Evan Star. Oh, I guess one of these actually duplicated. So that's supposed to be Ulrich Rahl, Imperator, Ulrich Rahl, and Evan Star. So we'll have to adjust that later. But this, yeah, so that's going to be our three Mortarchs so far, and the winner of this bracket will be our fourth. So we go back up into the battle as everyone is going to be loading in. Get these settings all nice and smooth for you all. All right. All right, so to get things started off, we'll go over the Empire being led by Ronin for our first match. We have Karl Franz up in the sky as his lord, and he is bringing, I'm guessing, Galmaraz and Reichling Runefang. And we have a Jade Wizard, who just disappeared on me, is probably going to be bringing, I'm guessing, Regrowth and Earthblood. Pretty standard kit when you're bringing Karl. Give him nice heals, pretty much heal cap him pretty much every single match. For the rest of the forces, we have a front line of spearmen across the line. We have a couple great swords, actually, kind of deal with maybe some of the Temple Guard that may be present on the battlefield. We have some Empire Knights, two Demigryph Knights with halberds. Very good pick against a lot of the large monsters of the Lizardmen. And then we have 3 units of Outriders, which trade very well. They're very good skirmish cav. They'll be able to out-trade pretty much anything and kind of keep a good distance. And for the Lizardmen, we have Sars Oldblood on his Carnosaur as the Lord. We have a Skink Priest of Heavens, which looks like Harmonic Convergence. We have Wind Blast and Curse of the Midnight Wind. Very good picks there. For the front line, we have Skink cohorts, and we have Saurus Warriors with shields. We have the cohort of Sotek, the Red-Crested Skinks ROR, and some more Skink cohorts on the far side. For the cavalry, we have some Coldwind Spear Riders and some regular Coldwind Riders, a pair on both flanks. The frontline engagement, we have a couple of Chameleon Skinks vanguarded, and we also have a Feral Bastillodon, which is actually a fairly decent pick in this particular matchup. But we'll see how they do against the cavalry forces of the Empire. See what they are saying. So everyone is saying, ready, good luck, have fun. And I'll let them know they can start when ready. Hey, SG71, glad you could make it to the stream. Alright, so it looks like at least one ready up. just waiting on the last one, and we are underway. So yeah, the Demigryph Knights are deployed on the flank, and of course, yeah, we have the Outriders going to be doing some skirmishing. There's not really a whole lot that can do too much. They are being a little wary of the forest here in case they had some vanguard, which the Lizardmen, they do have. They have a couple of chameleon skinks in the forest. They don't want to get... The Outriders won't really take all that too much damage, but they will get slowed down from the poison. And they are taking some shots. And I said they will take some damage, but it's pretty much a slow and making sure that the rest of the Lizardmen are able to catch them at that point. But that is the only ranged forces for the Lizardmen, so Carl's going to have pretty much free reign to get the engagements as he wants, as long as he doesn't get caught out by these Cold One Spear Riders. He's going to want to pull out pretty quick, otherwise he could get surrounded pretty quickly, and that's not going to be too good, though they do have Outriders which can fire into that blob, so it wouldn't be so bad initially, but he can't take prolonged combat. But this Feral Bastillodon actually taking a ton of damage from these Outriders. And there is no healing on the Lizardman side, so there isn't really going to be a whole lot that they can do to get that damage back. And we have some forest engagements right now, as the Lizardmen have quite a bit of presence on this forested side. We have these spearmen are getting pretty much just absolutely surrounded right now. We do have some great swords coming in to deal with the skin cohorts. But now we have the Empire Knights kind of engage a little bit with the Saurus Oathblood, as Carl Franz did pop up into the sky, getting a nice regrowth, getting a nice 1400 health back from there. So he didn't take as much damage as he could have in that engagement, but it's still, he did fairly well. I wouldn't say that was necessarily a worthwhile engagement. He didn't dish out as much as he took. We kind of spin around and we see the Saurus Oathblood kind of backing off from the Outrider fire. This Outriders, especially 3 of them, that's a lot of fire on target, so they can do a lot of damage. And right now, this Bastillodon is actually pretty, I wouldn't say necessarily isolated, but in terms of these Outriders, it is. So these Outriders can easily just focus this Feral Bastillodon down, especially now that it's getting out away from the rest of its forces. There's nothing to really stop this, and I'm guessing that this Feral Bastillodon is either going to go down right here, or it'll be easily routed off, and I think just another volley is going to be all that it takes to bring that down. So really, the Outriders paying for themselves and more as the Feral Bastillodon does fall in that engagement. So now we actually have some flanking maneuver coming in from these Demigryph Knights. We have these Chameleon Kings trying to slow them down, but they are going to be getting some nice rear charges in. These, the Golden Riders do see this, and there's not really a whole lot they can do to get away, so they are going to take the brunt of the attack from both sides by Carl and those Demigryph Knights, and those Demigryph Knights are just going to tear them to pieces, and there isn't enough to support them. You don't have that Feral Carnosaur of the Saurus Oathblood in that area to assist, and they're just going to be getting buckled under the pressure right now. But we do have a Curse of the Midnight Wind going down, which will at least allow them to sustain a little bit better, as they do minus 30 armor and melee attack, but an Earthblood going down from the Empire to stabilize, or not necessarily stabilize, but to top off these Demigryph Knights as they're taking damage from these Cold One Riders, as those both Cold One Riders looks like they're going to be going down fairly quickly, and the Source of Blood is coming in, but I think at this point it's a little too late, and he should be trying to assist in the other areas of the battle, but it looks like, the rest of the Empire forces have been brought down pretty well. The Empire's right flank has pretty much crumbled, so it's just down to the Demigryph Knights and this kind of other pocket on the Empire's left flank. So it's a kind of a, you win some engagements and you lose the others. I think so far the Empire has taken the better engagements, though one of those Demigryph Knights are getting very low. They're down below half right now, but some nice healing. There's another Earthblood goes down to kind of top them off. Will be very helpful, and that, the Outrider firepower with that Saurus Oathblood sitting above everything else, they just have pretty much a clear line of sight to fire in. And now that these Cold One Riders, I think they're getting really ahead of themselves, because these Outriders, they fan out, so anywhere that they go, they'll be able to get shot. So right now it's a very good crossfire coming in, and those will quickly rout that unit of Cold One Riders, but this blob fight is where it's all happening, as for the Outriders have temporarily been pushed off from out of range of the Saurus Oathblood. We have the Chameleon Kings are firing in, getting some nice poison to the units in here, so like the Demigryph Knights and Carl Franz himself are going to be taking that poison effects, and none of the Lizardmen are going to be taking that with that recent change to how poison works. But right now, the Outriders are back and ready to start firing again, and their target is going to be that Saurus Oathblood, as there isn't anything above them. So like if you kind of go down, you can see that he just sticks up way above all the other troops. There's no other monstrous units to really kind of get him to block that. Though the Jade Wizard and the Demigryph Knights are starting to rout right now. I think these Demigryph Knights will be able to come back. It's just a matter of when, and because there's nothing really left to be able to chase them off. So they still have quite a few models left. Nice Earthblood or some regrowth on them. We'll be able to top them off fairly well as long as the Jade Wizard comes back, which these Outriders are making sure happens. So now, I mean, Karl is taking, it's not no damage from these Chameleon Skinks, but he is trying to snipe out the Stars Old Blood and doing a very good job at that. Though he is taking quite a bit of fire from these Chameleon Skinks, though they will be using up the rest of their ammo. Though Karl Franz should be able to tank this engagement fairly well. There's nothing else really close by to engage, though it is possible that he could end up routing here. And Earthblood does go down to kind of make sure that he does stabilize. I think a regrowth would do very well at this point, but I don't know if he had enough Winds of Magic for that. And we take a look at the rest of the balance power has actually kind of started to go back towards even right now. It's been pretty much in the Empire's side for the longest time, but this is the fire coming in from these Chameleon Skinks did like a lot more damage than you may initially realize. Like this, 2 units of Chameleon Skinks can do a lot of damage because all of their shots are pretty much hitting Karl Franz. He's a very large target, pretty hard to miss. Though, again, this Saurus Old Blood really has to, he's pretty much going to have to try and stay behind this rock right here to keep these Outriders from shooting in. But it looks like the rest of the, well, we do have the Demigryph Knights coming back to the field, so they'll be getting some nice charges in. So what's left is pretty much Saurus Warriors, a couple Skink cohorts, and another unit of Saurus Warriors. Again, now the Outriders, they have nothing that's going to be able to even harass them. So they just need to kind of stay away from the rest of the engagement, and I think having those Demigryph Knights charge in at that point may not have been the best idea, because you still have all these Outriders that can whittle them down as much as they can, and we have these great swords which can provide at least a little bit of screening and allow these Outriders to just open up, and which is pretty much what they're going to be doing right now, is just kiting away and making sure any of the last targets get engaged. And I think now at this point Karl could go for the Saurus Old Blood at this point. There's no more ranged support, and it does look like he is kind of heading that way. We do have the Demigryph Knights kind of circling around, getting a bit of a surround on, as the Outriders now finally open up, as the Chameleon Skinks are trying to get in to at least push away at least some of these units. But right now the Old Blood does kind of retreat back into his forces, as Karl is he may get a little caught out here, though we do have the Demigryph Knights coming in to support, taking a bit of shots in the back, but at least these Demigryph Knights will be able to screen them out at least initially, and Karl Franz should be able to take off. Balance power is starting to go back a little bit more in the Empire's favor. We kind of get a nice charge in, though, as Karl Franz and the Demigryph Knights get a nice surround off on, and down goes the Saurus Old Blood. So that is a very good pick right there, and it's going to be pretty much the last of the leadership, and you get a bit of the mass route coming on. These still have the Skink Priest of Heavens. That's a very kind of squishy target, and the big stopping power has pretty much been taken down, and the Outriders have quite a bit of ammo left, so they pretty much just have to whittle down what they can. I think pretty much the targets are going to have to be the Saurus Warriors, as Karl Franz is just going to be chasing off the routing units, and they have lost both of the Demigryph Knights now at this point. One of them, so yeah, both do look like they are off the field, and unless they are shattered on that side, so it's just the Jade Wizard kind of in the back, really pretty safe at this point. There's nothing, again, not a whole lot of mobility left, and I think it is pretty heavily in the Empire's favor. Once again, Chameleon Skinks trying to get out, but a nice charge in from the Outriders to make sure that they keep their distance and allow the other 2 units to fire away. But now that this unit is out of ammo, that Outrider unit can now do that screening themselves, and this other Outrider unit should probably peel back. Yeah, Karl Franz looks like he is still chasing some routing units, though most are starting to shatter on that peripheral. So now pretty much the Outriders, I would say they're probably going to want to just pick off on both sides, but for the Lizardmen, there's not a whole lot left. They pretty much have to choose an engagement. They're just going to have to deal with these Outriders here, deal with these great swords, and then hope that, maybe the Skink Priest has some spells left to provide a nice, a Curse of the Midnight Wind, and a critical engagement might be enough to really sway at least the engagement one way or the other. But Rubber Duck of War will withdraw, and Ronin will take the first battle. So get the scoreboard updated there. So Ronin is now up to 1. And we will get the next map set up as well. But yeah, if you take a look, I mean, the Outriders, I think, did the majority of the damage, pretty much kind of wasted the Feral Bastillodon and did a lot of damage to the Saurus Oldblood before that Carl was able to finish that off. Yeah, Ronin almost losing Carl there. Very close. Yeah, those Convince Kings, I think, did a lot more damage than he was expecting. Let's see. Let's stick with... Let's go with Calvaraz. All right, so let's get back into it, see how things are going. All right, so now Rubber Duck of War will have his first pick and 2 bands as well. So he's going to be going with the Wood Elves. And let's see what he picks for the bands. I think Wood Elves is actually an interesting pick as a leading pick. It's usually, I would say, a good counter pick to a lot of factions, but has a fair amount of disadvantaged matchups where they kind of can struggle. But I mean, in the hands of a good Wood Elf player, they can really do well against a lot of factions if you have good practiced hands on them. Ronin already nervous about going up against the Wood Elves, though. I think a lot of players can be. I mean, it's a faction that, if played very well, is very, very strong, but it's also hard to play it at that level. And he's going to be banning the Dwarves and High Elves. And Dwarves, I think, yeah, they do fairly well against the Wood Elves, so I can understand that pick. And then High Elves, I can see that going a little bit either way, but I think, yeah, it is generally a bit High Elf favored. And if we take a look at what else Ronin could be going with, I mean, Empire, since Ronin already went with Empire, actually that is a good matchup, so he won't be able to do that. So he's going to be going Beastmen, though. A nice rush faction to kind of put a lot of pressure on what is normally a kiting strategy for the Wood Elves. So they do have a few other ways they can play it. But it is a very classic showdown. No worries, Zadagan. Went pretty smooth this time, a lot better than I think it was probably the smoothest yet. Everything was pretty much on time. Didn't have really any issues, so everything is going smoothly. I'll take a quick little peek at the bracket, see on challenge to see if the other matchup is still going strong. So it looks like they are still going, and we'll, yeah, hopefully they finish up about the time that this series also finishes, so we don't have to wait along for too long. But all right. Again, welcome to everyone who has joined in the stream. This is our first matchup of the semifinals. Our first game went to Ronin, and this is going to be our best of 3, and the finals will be a best of 5. Looks like we have Ronin has readied up, and so has Rubber Duck. So we will get right on into this second match. So yeah, expecting quite a bit of mobility from the Beastmen, and you kind of expect to see kind of the same stuff from the Wood Elves. I know Randomnix was saying going a lot into the Glade Riders, which, yeah, I've seen that work fairly well. Pretty much Beastmen aren't really able to catch them, and they're able to just pretty much use up all their ammo, and they kind of just wait until they've whittled down everything else enough, and then just pretty much go in against any of the larger targets once they have lost their support. But we'll see momentarily which each side has brought. Alright, so we have loaded in, so we'll start with the Beastmen being led by Ronin. So for the force, we have Morgar, the Shadowgave. I'm sure he's going to be bringing all of his summons. I don't know why I bothered with that, but yeah, so he's bringing the Spirit Essence of Chaos, which gives a nice summon once. And then another Chaos Spawn summon as well. So that'll be very helpful. I mean, maybe not initially, but as long as they can get once they can engage with the Wood Elf forces, that'll be a good way to pin things in. But they have brought a Chaos Spawn Rush pretty much for the rest of it. We have the Butchers of Kalkengard, and we have a Bray Shaman of Beasts with Transformation of Gadan, and we have a Bray Shaman of Wild, and I'm unfamiliar with the Beast spells. We have Viletide, Bray Scream, and Jagged Dagger. This is added item, and the front line is just Ungor Spearmen. And for the mobility, we have a couple of units of Senegors. We have the Razorgore Herd, and that will be the army there. So pretty straightforward, no ranged here, so it's pretty much going for the pure rush build, while the Wood Elf forces do have 3 Glade Riders. They have a couple of Wild Riders. They have the Sisters of Thorn, so quite a bit on the mobility. Front line is a bunch of Dryads with a couple Eternal Guard in the background, and they are just the regular variant, so these are not shielded, and it is going to be a good pick because they are not bringing any ranged support from the Beastmen. And we have Durthu also coming in with Transformation Kadan, Flock of Doom, and all that good stuff, as well as a Branch Wraith coming in with Earthblood to kind of heal up the cavalry forces. But I mean, Durthu's going to be a little on the slower side. So as long as these Glade Riders can get up front and do as much damage as they can before the Beastmen are able to engage, should go fairly well. And a little banter going on. And we are underway. So yeah, pretty much, yeah, I suppose, yep, Malverde, there isn't a whole lot of, actually, there's no poison, unless the okay, so Sisters of Thorn have poison, otherwise there isn't a whole lot to slow down the advance of the Beastmen, so they're pretty much just going to be charging straight ahead, and there is a little bit of shenanigans in the back corners. We have some Chaos Warhounds coming in to hopefully shut things down, but there's not really a whole lot that they'll be able to catch. A nice spell going into the middle of all 3 of these units who are very blobbed up. This one unit taking about half damage right now, so that's quite a cost-effective spell, as they were caught a little blobbed. But now we have the Senegors, which are going to be looking to push off these Glade Riders to allow the rest of the infantry and monsters to advance a little bit more unabated. But really, yeah, the Glade Riders have not been doing a whole lot of damage. As you can see, pretty much all the units are pretty topped off. Chaos Spawn have taken a little bit of poke, but pretty much the Glade Riders have taken the brunt of the engagement. And now the Chaos Warhounds look like they've got a little caught out by the Sisters of Thorn. And we could have these Wild Riders pretty much just turn and finish them off very, very quickly. But otherwise, we do have a Curse of on Rahair, which is giving a nice reduction to speed, which that will help slow them down, keep these Glade Riders safe. But the frontline engagement has gone underway, as we have the Razorgore Horde engaging with the Dryads behind the destroyers of Drakwold. And Durthu is now getting in, dropping that big stick onto the Chaos Spawn, as we have a nice Sword of Daith going down, actually, doing some damage and dropping the armor of all the troops in that AoE. And we do have some now fire coming in from the Glade Riders, just arcing over the lines, going right now into the Butchers of Kalkengard. And we have another spell going down, debuffing some more speed. So the curse around here, so we got a minus 30% melee attack, as well as the speed. But yeah, so far, I think the Wood Elves would have liked to have done a little bit better on the skirmishing phase, but this frontline engagement, these Chaos Spawn are taking quite a bit of damage from Durthu, as well as the Butchers of Kalkengard, as the Feral Manticore is engaging from behind, and that is not going to be very good for the Beastmen, as that is really their kind of core units right now, especially the Butchers of Kalkengard, as they are just getting absolutely destroyed by Durthu and this Feral Manticore. However, this other flank is starting to break for the Beastmen, so if they are able to push through here and wrap around and engage this front line, but it looks like that center ranks have really depleted for the Beastmen. Only the Chaos Spawn are holding, and they only have a few models left. So right now, I think the Beastmen charge has pretty much tapered out. A lot of their units have been routing. This center engagement has broken down almost completely, and Durthu is still standing tall. The balance power is still very even, though that does come with having all of the summons that the Beastmen can bring. We have one of the Feral Manticores in the back trying to keep these Ungor Spearmen from getting that surround off. Really, I think they were going to try and shut down the fire coming in from these Glade Riders. But the main engagement is the center one. As a Chaos Bond, though I'm not sure if that was necessarily a good pick there. They really didn't have an instant effect, though it looks like they're going to be getting a good rear charge off if they do come in. Because you can see, it looks like we have a lot of summons in on both sides. The Feral Manticore, this Chaos Spawn is a summons, but Durthu is dropping the stick on this Bray Shaman, as that Bray Shaman is now going to be routing, and it wouldn't surprise me if one of these Glade Riders does peel off to make sure that he doesn't come back. But we have gotten at least one of the Chaos Spawn has engaged with these Wild Riders to keep them from getting in any, pretty much sandwiching in their units. But now, so this initial bit of a rear charge has kind of turned into an engagement on the other direction, as the front half of the Beastmen forces has pretty much all disappeared right now. And so all of these units are going to turn and attack these Chaos Spawn, though I think could just very well just pull off, because this is a summon and it will be depleting fairly quickly, as is this Feral Manticore. So right now, that's pretty much going to be the name of the game for the Wood Elves, is that they pretty much just need to avoid these summons until they dissipate, and they're going to have a very noticeable advantage at that point, because there isn't really anything left. I don't think there's anything left that can actually take on Durthu. I think Durthu could potentially just solo the entire Beastmen army. We kind of take a little. We do have a full health Centicore unit, so a little bit of tactical reserves coming in the late game, and it is for the. We just have the Bray Shaman and of course Murgur, but I don't think that they're going to be able to stand up to Durthu in this case, as this Chaos Spawn is going to be depleting, and balance of power is very much in the Wood Elves' favor. So yeah, I really don't see a good way for the Beastmen to come back. I think the Wild Hunters and pretty much just the Cav forces just need to make sure that any of these stragglers are taken care of, and then Durthu's going to go in for the kill against, probably go for the Bray Shaman. First is going to be the kind of the low-hanging fruit. Mortar is a fairly tanky unit, as long as the Centaurs are going to be able to pretty much cycle in and out, hopefully trying to break all of the Dryads, so pretty much to just leave Durthu and the Branch Wraith on their own. Though it just looks like we have another summon coming in from the Beastmen as that Feral Manticore comes in, which actually will be very helpful in this engagement right here, as Durthu is engaging with Morgar. Yeah, the Feral Manticore has gone after these Wild Hunters. They may be able to break them. They're very low, only have 8 models left. They're trying to salvage the Centaurs, but again, if you take a look into the center ranks, the Bray Shaman has routed, is kind of stuck in the middle of all this cav, but Morgar is engaged with Durthu without any other infantry support. So yeah, there's pretty much no way that Morgar is going to be able to survive this. Army losses are going to be probably kicking in any second now. As soon as this Feral Manticore dissipates, I think that's going to trigger it. But yeah, that is going to be all she wrote. As, yeah, Morgar even shatters at this point, and away goes the Feral Manticore. So yeah, that really came down to the Beastmen just ran out of steam. That frontal engagement with the Butchers of Kalkengard and some of the Chaos Spawn just got absolutely destroyed by Durthu. He dropped down all of his debuffs, Sword of Daith, and the Curse of that one curse spell. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the ending to that, but that will even up the series at 1-1. And we will get the next map sorted out as well. Let's go with Iron Sand Desert. So yeah, both players liking the Wood Elf side of that engagement. Right. So yeah, Rubber Duck will be picking 3, and then Ronin will be able to ban 1 and pick 1 faction himself, and then Rubber Duck will pick from the remaining 2. Yeah. Yep, the old tactical reserves coming from Ronin. So yeah, Rubber Duck is going to go Norska, Carrot, Kadrin, and High Elves. I think Ronin is a little confused. But yeah, Carrot Kadrin is going to be the Dwarf subfaction. You don't really gain anything by going with Carrot Kadrin. You pretty much limit yourself to what you can choose. But he looks like Rubber Duck is going to be going a little bit for the memes. Yeah, I don't know. Norska is actually, I'd say Norska is even good against the Wood Elves, but it's probably the best of the... Let's see. Oh yeah, for best of 3... Yeah, as I was saying, yeah, Norska. I think yeah, Norska is still a good faction against Wood Elves, but yeah, it probably is the better of the three for them to go up against. I think we're pretty much just saying the same thing over and over here, but yeah, I think unnecessary confusion. Yeah, against Norska, Dwarves, and High Elves. So he's going to be banning Norska and picking Dark Elves. So yeah, Dark Elves I think are fairly good against the Dwarves. I think the Dwarves do have ways to counteract that. High Elf, Dark Elf, I've seen this go kind of either way. High Elves will generally have the advantage over anything that isn't a Scourge Runner, and I think Ice Power will attest to that. So yeah, now which way will Ice Power go? Will he side with his Dark Elves, or is he going to stick to his guns with Rubber Duck? So let's see what Rubber Duck of War goes with. I'm almost thinking we're going to be seeing a High Elf pick. Though I think he really does kind of want to go with Karak Kadrin, though I don't think that is necessarily the best pick against the Dark Elves. Oh, so a Rubber Duck Award seems to be going with Karak Kadrin. So the Slayer King will be going up against the dark forces of the Druki. And Rubber Duck pulling out the old pineapple pizza banter. I still think, yeah, Dark Elves probably have the slight advantage against Dwarves, but the fact that Rubber Duck is now being limited to Karak Kadrin, I don't think that's the best Lord choices there. It's not. I mean, it's pretty easy for the Dark Elves to just not give the Dwarves any good targets for them. So we probably just avoid bringing like any of the big monsters. Maybe avoid the Hydra. Avoid. I mean, you could probably even easily avoid bringing like against, for example, Malekith on his dragon or any of those large targets. You probably want to do that anyways because of the firepower that the dwarves can bring. Alright, so it looks like Ronin is ready to go. We're just waiting on a rubber duck. We'll take a quick check on... So it looks like, I'm guessing the Viking and Hadries is in their third match. It looks like they are still ongoing, but they should be wrapping up before this one is done, so we should be able to get right into the second semifinal series. Yeah, it would not surprise me to see blasting charges in this case, unless... Well, I mean, Dark Elves could go very elite with their front line. They could bring Harganeth Executioners, who will pretty much just tear apart pretty much every infantry unit that the Dwarves can bring. It looks like Herberduck is ready, so we'll be able to see what they brought. Yeah, blasting charges would do very well against a lot of the stock infantry, so only the Dread Spears or the Bleak Swords, and yeah, I mean any of the other units that aren't elite, they will do very well against. So you pretty much expect to see at least some. So blasting charges are probably a good choice. I have seen gyrocopters in this matchup as well, although dark shards or shades can do very well damage against them. I mean, hammers can be good against executioners, though I still think executioners trade better into them. But it is probably one of the best tools that the dwarves have against the executioners that isn't just shooting them. It would not surprise me to see manticores, though. Could easily see the Beastmaster on his manticore. Alright, so we'll see what we have. So it looks like for the Dark Elves, we have quite the Air Force with a lot of Harpies, looking to counter any gyrocopter play that they might have. We have a couple Cold One chariots. We have Malekith on his chariot, so it looks like we do have some right guesses in the chat. We have the Sorceress of Shadow with, looks like just Melkos. No, that is the Pendulum, of course. That is with the Dwarves. Why would it be anything else? And we have the Sisters of Slaughter. We have a couple units of those. We have some Black Art Corsairs. So yeah, pretty much you have the Pendulum to deal with really any of the elite infantry. Sisters of Slaughter will do fairly well with the Cold One Chariots. I think are going to be the breadwinners, as the Harpies will be used to pretty much shut down any of the ranged forces of the Dwarves. And for the forces of Karak Kadrin, we have, of course, Ungrim Iron Fist. And we actually have a couple units of... We have one organ gun and one cannon. So the organ gun will actually do very decently against any elite troops. Cannons do well against any of the cav. We're not really seeing a whole lot of elite here. We do have two Slayer units, one being the Dragonback Slayers. They'll be able to protect from the Harpies very well. The rest of the frontline troops, we have some Rangers. The front line is just Dwarf Warriors. And then we have miners with blasting charges behind them, and we do have 3 actual rangers. And for the we also have a runesmith, which I'm going to guess has Rune of Wrath and Ruin, and actually a few other abilities here. We have the Rune of Negation, which gives a nice damage resistance, and the Hammer of Karak Draz. And we also have Felix, which will help a lot with the frontline engagement. He'll do well against pretty much all of the infantry that they've brought. These chariots will probably be a little issue for him, but otherwise, yeah, going for expecting a lot more of the light infantry. I think, yeah, if we had seen a executioner, we have the organ guns and cannons to deal with things. But yeah, the Harpies are probably going to be the big decider if they're able to get their engagements that they want at the right time. But otherwise, we are ready to go to get that pineapple pizza recipe in order to destroy it. Ronin is very much against that. So I'll tell him ready to go. And yeah, Ronin very much against the pineapple. We'll make him see the light someday. Some good banter across both sides. So now we are moving forward. Chariots are probably going to be wanting to get... I mean, they're going to just probably have to stay away from the organ guns and cannons, at least initially. I mean, the cannons have opened up into Malekith. It's probably their best target right now. I mean, Malekith or the regular chariots. And I think once these chariots get in range of these organ guns, they're going to want to be opening up into them. And otherwise, the organ guns could fire into the Sisters of Slaughter. But they're going to just take whatever shots they can initially. Otherwise, I mean, the frontline engagements, the Blackheart Corsairs and Bleak Swords, they're going to have a tough time really breaking through with the Dwarf Warriors, especially with the blasting charges in support. And there isn't any, like, Thunderer units, so these Harpies are actually going to be able to get very close and be able to pretty much drop on their targets when they need to, though the Rangers will do decent damage, though it's not as explosive as a Thunderer unit. But all three focusing down one unit will probably do very good damage. Though I may stand corrected there, as those Rangers are doing quite a bit against that one unit of Harpies, as they are all focusing down. And as I said, the organ gun has turned to fire on the Colden chariots. But I think it is now looking to engage other targets. And I think we had a few units had fire at will on. I don't think these miners with blasting charges are going to be wanting to fire into Malekith, doing a lot of friendly damage. And that pendulum just rips through this unit of Rangers, doing a ton of damage and clipping the other unit. But now the Blackheart Corsairs are trying to push in to get into the miners with blasting charges to keep them from firing. We do have the Harpies now getting down onto the Rangers and cannons. I should have some Slayers close by to assist, but it looks like they are off chasing the chariots right now, as all these Harpies are going to be getting onto the range units. And that is looking very good for the Dark Elves, who have routed one unit, and we do have some Blackheart Corsairs in the now back lines a bit, as the Dragonback Slayers have finally changed targets to get onto these Harpies to save the organ guns. We do have a strong Soul Stealer going down, clipping a bunch of units. The cannons, the miners, and Felix and Ungrim have all been caught out, but Malekith has taken quite a bit of damage on that initial engagement. And now the chariots are now running amok in the back lines without a whole lot to quickly deal with them. You do have the Slayers, but the Slayers are busy trying to push off the Harpies, but they were able to break this organ gun with the help of these Blackheart Corsairs, as now we have some Sisters of Slaughter now coming into the back line, which will quickly break down these miners. So it's very much looking like a Dark Elf one-sided victory here. Pretty much the mobility is what really won them the day. Like, the Harpies were able to just quickly shut down. There's enough Harpies to shut down almost all of the ranged forces. Really, it's down to, we have Gaze of Malice, looks like coming in, just kind of clipping some units. And just have the Unbreakable. You have Felix, you have Ungrim, who, I mean, they aren't, and there are no pushovers, especially with Malekith as low as he is. He really can't afford to engage, so the chariots are going to be able to pretty much shoot apart everything else while the Harpies chase off all the surrounding units. And I don't think there's a whole lot for the Dwarves left. Yes, Hadries, I will be hosting that as soon as this one is... Well, we'll be using the same lobby, so you will join as soon as this one is done. So yeah, we have this center engagement. So we have the miners, and we have... And that's pretty much it. Miners and Dragonback Slayers are the only infantry forces. Otherwise, we have Ungrim, the Runesmith, and Felix. So we have the Hero Blob against the Dark Elves. And the Dark Elves, yeah, they're just cleaning up everything else. I think, actually, the Sisters of Slaughter and the Blackheart Corsairs could pretty much just get a nice surround off. They not really needed, though these Dwarf Warriors have come back and are holding their own against these harpies. So that's potentially a target for if the chariots are close by. So we do have Malekith who could go in and break those dwarf warriors. Otherwise, it is just down to this last stand of these 3 heroes, as we have like what? We have 10 units of Dragonback Slayers left. And another Soul Stealer going down, clipping all of these units, doing nice work to kind of heal up Malekith as much as he can. Right, yeah. As now the Runesmith is going to be breaking. Felix, I think, is going to be soon to follow. And it's just going to be a full health grind of Ungrim as he is unbreakable, making his final stand. So it looks like everything else, with the exception of Felix, has been routed at this point. So we do a quick little swing around. As Malekith will just chase off the Runesmith. We have a few units of Dark Elves breaking the Corsairs, but I don't think, even against just the infantry, Ungrim I don't think is going to be able to deal with what's left. This looks like he has... Yep, and Rubber Duck, knowing that that battle has been lost, will concede, and Ronin will take our first spot in the finals. Alright, so yeah, again, the Harpies really doing a lot of the good work shutting down the Rangers, the Cannons, and the Organ Guns. And with the ranged forces pretty much quickly taken care of, the Dwarves just couldn't really respond at that point. So yeah, a pretty lopsided match for the Dark Elves there, but GG, well played. So yep, the next 2 units. So yeah, Rubber Duck will take. Well, Rubber Duck has lost, so Ronin will take the first spot in the finals, and we do have our next contender. So it will be Hadries. And if Iron General and Hadries are in the chat, we'll open up some spots for you to join in. Alright, so I'll drop a little reminder. So we have Hadries has joined, so we'll put a little reminder in chat for Iron General as well. You might have a little bit of... Yeah, it does look like, because I wasn't able to type anything in chat. So yeah, we'll just rehost the lobby, and we'll get that started again. Oh, I did that wrong. Okay. All right. So yeah, lobby is now good to join, and yeah, Iron General might not be able to see the lobby, so I'll add him to the friends list. And yeah, the new lobby is up. It's Rise of the Mortarchs Q4 Take 2 Hadries, so you can join that, and I'll get Iron General here. Alright, so yeah, we have Hadries in. Alright. Alright, so while we're waiting for Iron General to join up, we will set the map. Go with Eschen for the first one. And Iron General has joined in. So Iron General will have first picks as well, I believe. He does. Alright, so Iron General will be banning Vampire Coast and Norska and going with Beastmen. You don't often see Beastmen as a leading faction. But yeah, we'll see how things go. No, oh. Picking Coast? Oh no, I think. Oh, yeah, I assume. Yeah, Iron General would want to pick or ban counts, not coast. So I think Iron General probably meant, yeah, I would assume that he meant to ban the regular counts. Yeah, Beastmen versus Vampire Counts is probably one of the more lopsided matchups, especially in the hands of a good player. But so it looks like, yeah, we're going to be banning Norska and Counts and going with Beastmen. And we'll see what Hadries then goes for. So he looks like he is going to be going Lizardmen. We'll see if he confirms that. Probably just checking a few picks, but he is going to be going with Lizardmen. So our first match will be Lizardmen versus Beastmen. Yeah, Coast is pretty good against Beastmen as well. Yeah, otherwise I'm a little unfamiliar with this particular matchup. I guess I really don't see Beastmen as much on my end, but actually there's a few people in chat who maybe will shed a little bit better light on this particular matchup. Though I mean, pretty much all of the Beastmen infantry isn't going to be able to do a whole lot against like Saurus. They're pretty much going to have to rely on much the Minotaurs or Centaurs with like throwing axes, I think, can do fairly well. But we'll see what Iron General will go with. Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, for the Lizardman side, you're probably going to be, at least from my gut feeling, you'd see a bit more of a Saurus front line. I don't think there's too much need to really go for like Temple Guard. I mean, yeah, you have like Minotaurs, Chaos Spawn, but I think at least if you at least deal with the Beastmen infantry, those aren't going to be as big a threat. I think Pterodons could also be a potential, but of course, Ungor Raiders, I think, are fairly decent against them if they're able to get enough units focused on them. But it looks like Iron General is ready. And yes, I did mean to actually start doing timers for this. I'll have to resume that for the next match. Though, yeah, today went a lot quicker than the last qualifier, so we're not too pressed for time. I think we're sitting a good, 2, maybe even 3 hours ahead of schedule from last time. So Alright, so Hadries must have had to step back for a sec, but he is all set, and we are going to get into our first match of the second semifinals. Alright. Yeah, Desert Fuck, yeah, this particular tournament scheduling's been a little funky with the other tournaments that have been going on. I mean, ECL was initially supposed to be last Sunday. Ended up being Wednesday. And I know my son has his finals tomorrow. And I initially thought that next ECL would be Sunday, but we'll see how that goes. Now for the Lizardmen army. We do have a front line of Saurus warriors. We have a skink cohort. We have Lord Mazdamundi on his mount, and he is going to be bringing Knight of Amnatok, Harmonic Convergence, Apotheosis, or Shield of the Old Ones, and the Bound Banishment. For the rest of the forces, we of course have a Dread Saurian, a Bastillodon Solar Engine, and we have a couple three Pterodons up in the sky. So yeah, bringing out the big Dread Saurian. Pretty much only has to really fear the throwing axes, which it looks like we have quite a few of those. So the Beastmen has brought 4 Centaurs with throwing axes, and we have also brought 4 regular Centaurs. We have, for the infantry department, we have Ungor Spearman herds. We have 4 of those, and we have 2 Bestigor herds. Good armor-piercing damage, so they'll actually do pretty decently against the front line of the Saurus warriors. Actually, they'll do very well. We also have Borger, the Shadowgave, with his Chaos Spawn summons, and we have a Brace Shaman of Wild with, it looks like, Viletide and Traderkin. So very mobile on the Beastmen side. Balance power is very much in their favor to start with, but that's just how it is with Beastmen. Their summons carries a lot of weight, especially with Morger. But once those dissipate, it usually balances out in the end. Alright, but yeah, looks like the forces are pretty much all set. So yeah, Hadries is set. So, yep, Iron General is also ready, so we will be underway in a second here. If we take a look at the counts. Very low count for the Lizardmen. We had the initial Centaur deployment right in range of the Pterodon Riders, and they will want to be pulling back initially. Yeah, Centaurs will do very well if they're able to get the hits in. I know Pterodons are somewhat kind of tricky to hit in the air with their kind of how their hitbox works, but the rest of the mobility is quickly going to converge on the Lizardmen's formation. And I think as long as the Centaurs are a little conservative with their ammo to deal with that Dreadsaurian, and pretty much Hadries just needs to keep that Dreadsaurian as protected as he can from the Centaurs. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot that they can be dealt with, as the solar engine is firing into the Centaurs, really dealing with the threats that can threaten their key units. More shots raining in, a swing and a miss against the Centaurs for that volley. We do have, we gotta zoom back, a little skirmishing taken, going back and forth. Now the Pterodon Riders, they probably can actually push up and put a little bit of pressure on. It looks like they're going to be kind of moving back a bit more to protect. We have a Viletide going down into the middle of the Saurus Warriors, not doing a whole lot of damage. It's not really as low tier. If that had gone up against maybe the Skinks, they could have probably done a bit more. But the Dreadsaurian is charging forward, getting into the Bestigor herd. And right now the throwing axes are, at least for now, it looks like they are looking for other targets. More shots raining in to these throwing axes. Again, that is the big threat to both Mazdamundi and the Dreadsaurian. is actually these Saurus Warriors have gotten onto those Centaurs, but it looks like a net has also gotten down and captured these Centaurs. So now actually, and Lord Mazdamundi is on top of the Brave Shaman in a Wild, and he doesn't have support, which I'm assuming these Centaurs were trying to do. But so that net was able to keep them from that engagement. And a Shield of the Old Ones goes down as the Traitorkin gets cast, so a good counter by Hadries there to at least protect his units as best he can. And we have Chaos Spawn coming into the middle, surrounding the Saurus Warriors on the front flank. Though we have the Bestigor Herd are actually routing, which is kind of a big loss for the Beastmen right now, but the Centaurs now are getting all the rear charges that they want to get. These Centaurs were able to at least protect the Grey Shaman for now. And a few more of the throwing axes. These two units are both routing, as Bounce Power has actually gone back up to the middle, I think, as the Centaurs, these two Centaurs have been forgotten, at least for the time being. I think they really need to get into the engagement. Same with kind of these Ungor Spearmen as well. We have the Dreadsaurian really just munching on these Chaos Spawn. There's nothing, yeah, pretty much this blob right here of the Dreadsaurian, the Lord Mazdamundi, and the Solar Engine. I think that's going to be a very, very hard nut to crack, especially with some of the control that Lord Mazdamundi will have. And it looks like we do have a Ruination, or a Banishment coming in, which will be right into the middle of these Bestigor herds. And the Banishment does kind of go away from the Beastmen forces, but it still did quite a bit of damage onto those Bestigor herds, at least initially. Brave Shaman is trying to at least occupy these Saurus Warriors as the Centaurs get a nice charge in. These Skink cohorts are just getting absolutely surrounded. They will not be lasting very long at all. And Apotheosis trying to heal up these Saurus Warriors. I mean, the Beastmen, they do need to protect their infantry as best they can, because if they lose that infantry, their single entities would be a lot less, I guess, effective, as well as they'll be limited a lot more to what they can do. Yeah, I think these two Centaurs with throwing axes is going to be very, very critical that they're not in this engagement. They need to be in doing damage to the Dreadsaurian and to Lord Mazdamundi, and trying to screen out these Pterodon Riders as well. Because the Solar Engine is just having free reign to fire in, even though these spears are on top of it. But with these, again, with the throwing axes out, the Pterodon Riders can do what they want. They don't have to be... there's nothing to really pressure them, as the Bounce Power is moving towards the Lizardman side, as another Traitorkin is being targeted to this Dreadsaurian. And actually Mazdamundi is getting a little caught out right now. He is fairly tanky, but we have all of these units. We have Centaur units, we have Morgar, we have the Brave Shaman, and a lot of Spear units are now all converging on him. So he really needs to try and get out. So he drops the Shield of the Old One to at least negate some of the incoming damage, as the Pterodon Riders are coming in to help and assist. I'm not sure if they have used their drop rocks yet, so that could be a very damaging ability to be using against this blobbed up Beastman units. The Bastiladon Solar Engine has also taken quite a bit of damage from the Bestigors and the Ungor Spearmen, and it is actually wavering right now. So there is a little bit of hope maybe for the Beastmen, despite the fact that these two Centaurs are off the field right now, as the Pterodon Riders are probably going to try and chase out, maybe screen off units, but the Dreadsaurian coming to assist Lord Mazdamundi, as Morgar is now all of a sudden finding himself without any infantry support, as terror routes have kind of pushed off a lot of the infantry surrounding it, some routing naturally, and others just getting terror routed. So yeah, the Dreadsaurian kicking Morgar out of the forest, as more shots come in from the Dreadsaurian, and the Pterodon Riders firing into the Brave Shaman. Now, yeah, getting rid of the spell department for the Beastmen is going to be also very good as well. And they are continuing to separate more in these units. Mazdamundi dropping an Apotheosis, as he was starting to get a little low, though having the Bestigors starting to rout is kind of eliminating a lot of the threats, because, I mean, the Centaurs on their own aren't going to be doing a whole lot to Mazdamundi, as the Bestigors cannot decide which direction to route, it seems like. It's actually Morgar is now being routed by the Dreadsaurian, and with him on top of him, I don't think he's going to be coming back, as the Brave Shaman as well has been pushed off. So yeah, it's down to just a few infantry units, and then there is, besides these throwing axes, which, I mean, if Iron General had been able to remember that those units earlier, he could have done enough damage to either Mazdamundi or whittle down the Dread Saurian enough to be able to deal with it. But at this point, even with the Vestigors or the Younger Spearmen, they're just not going to do enough, especially with Lord Mazdamundi. He's keep proccing Apotheosis, so he's going to continue to heal up. He has plenty of healing cap left as a banishment goes into the middle of these units with another shield of the old ones. Not a whole lot left to deal with him. Thornworker, Dreadsaurian peeled off just before he could finally rout, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Beastmen just have too much big units left with not enough to deal with them in time. The last of the infantry support is broken, and army losses will take it for the rest. But yeah, again, yeah, forgetting those Senegors was really the crux of the Beastmen's woes in that match. These two were routed off. I think also if you had kept all four of them together, the Pterodon riders wouldn't have really been able to screen them out, as they would have had the firepower to overwhelm the Pterodons. But yeah, not being able to have anything that could really deal damage to the Dreadsaurian or Mazdamundi was really a big problem for the Beastmen in that matchup. But well played with what he had. And we will update the scorecard, putting Hadries up 1. So now Hadries will have the pick and bans as we will get the next map set up. Let's do Pillar of Bone. So Hadries is going to be going Greenskins and banning Tomb Kings and Lizardmen. So Greenskins, I mean, Tomb Kings is really the Greenskins' worst matchup, and they don't have many matchups which you could even consider to be disadvantage. The Greenskins are a very strong faction right now. And I think, yeah, Lizardmen is a pretty even match. I think Hadries is probably just going with the matchups that he thinks that he is most confident with. And it looks like he might be thinking of going Wood Elves. So Iron General will be going with the Wood Elves for this second match. And I mean, Wood Elves and Greenskins, Wood Elves would have the advantage in the skirmishing force. I know Greenskins do have quite a bit that can do a lot of skirmishing, but it's very light armored for the most part. And I think just the skirmishing of like Glade Riders would be able to beat them, though I might be wrong about that. I still think Greenskins have the upper hand, at least initially. Yeah, Shetland saying Bretonia, Dawi both feel pretty decent versus Greenskins. And he's saying that Wood Elves is actually very hard with the rampaging. But a lot of the times, the matchups with the factions you are best at will often go better than matchups with factions that you aren't very accustomed to. It's like certain matchups are considered to be very favorable, but if you're not familiar with one of those factions, then you might as well just be going with a more even matchup with a faction you're very familiar with. So Down Under Blunder, no worries. Thanks for sticking around while you could. Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed with what you saw. We should be getting underway, though, for this next match fairly soon. Alright, so it looks like Hadries is ready, so we'll just be waiting on Iron General. What Wood Elf units can kill Stone Trolls? I mean, anything with enough firepower can probably take them down. I mean, Wave Watchers are probably the way to go. I mean, I know Stone Trolls have missile resist, but with like Prey of Anathrema, though there might be other targets that are more suited. Alright, let's see if Iron Thunder is almost ready. Alright, so it seems like Iron General is probably just getting to the top of his funds, so that's probably why Hadries is getting kicked on and off of Ready Up. So we should be almost set. Iron General does say just a sec, so we will be shortly underway. And for those who have joined recently, yeah, this is the second semifinal. The first series went to Ronin, so the winner of this series will be facing him in the best of 5 finals. I think Brett versus Greenskins is actually fairly decent. It does look like Iron General is ready, so we will get loaded in. But I think Bretonia versus Greenskins is actually a fairly decent matchup. I've seen that go both ways. I want to almost say that Bretonia has a slight advantage, depending on with what they can bring. Alright, so we do see some stone trolls in there. So for the green skin forces being led by Hadries, he has quite the lineup, but we have Grom the Paunch, we have an Orc Shaman, and a Goblin Big Boss. So the Orc Shaman looks like to be bringing Brain Bursta and Fist of Gork to imbue magic damage and give a very nice buff to melee attack and melee defense. A lot of mobility here as we have 4 Forest Goblin Spider Riders, we have 2 Forest Goblin Spider Riders, just the regular unit, we have the 8 Peak Loonies, we have some Savage Orcs in the front, so one of which being the big ones, we have some Goblins, a couple of units of those, the Stone Trolls from before, we have some Snotling Pump Wagons, the Flappa Edition, and some more Forest Goblin Spider Riders. And for the Wood Elves, we also have quite a bit of mobility here as well, as we have 4 Wild Riders, we have 3 Glade Guard, and we have, for the infantry department, we have 3 Dryads, and we have a Spellsinger of Life, and we have Durthu. So this is going to be quite an interesting start if things stay the way they are. As there's a lot of mobility on both sides, but I definitely think the mobility is going to favor the Wood Elves. Having these Glade Riders with Hagbane tips, so they do have poison as well. So they do magic damage and poison, so they'll be able to slow down the opponents, though the Forest Goblin Spider Riders, of course, also have poison. So it's going to be kind of a wash there in terms of speed. This is going to be quite an interesting start to the battle. So it looks like Hadries is set. I think Iron Thunder should be set as well. We are underway. We'll see just how things react as the Wild Riders try to get a quick charge in as the Forest Goblin Riders pull back as quickly as they can. One unit does look like it's going to be routing. Initially, a Awakening of the Wood goes down. Doesn't actually even break it. I was surprised to kind of see that as the now the Wild Riders do pull back. So that initial engagement, I want to say that the Wild Riders probably took a little bit more damage there. I mean, the Forest Goblin Spider Riders took a bit more percentage damage, but I think that was a good trade-off for the Greenskins initially, as the Wild Riders are being chased off into the support of their own infantry, as Grom the Paunch does kind of chase them, as now the Forest Goblin Spider Riders are starting to clip them, but Durthu is trying to kind of just walk right in between them, and he's getting some nice hits off onto the Stone Trolls, though it looks like first is a swing and a miss. Looks like some of the Glade Riders have actually been able to catch some of the mobility of the Greenskins, but it's kind of a trickle in for the Greenskins right now, so there's not really a whole lot to, I guess, occupy them, as there's only a few infantry units here. I think actually Durthu could find himself in a bit of a predicament right now. He is without any support, and he has he has 2 of the characters surrounding him from the Greenskins, as the rest of the Greenskins forces are actually kind of forming a perimeter around this engagement, trying to screen out as much of the cav from coming into support. We have the Stone Trolls keeping these Wild Riders and the Dryads at bay, as these Forest Goblin Spider Riders are firing in, poisoning Durthu, poisoning these Wild Riders. As we look at the periphery, we also have, the Glade Riders are actually cleaning up fairly well, but the Wild Riders got in with the Savage Orc Big Guns, and that was not an engagement that they wanted to be taking. They needed to be kind of helping break the rest of the mobility. But yeah, Durthu's just getting whittled down right now. We have the Sword of Daith going down, causing damage to the surrounding units, but it's just a mass pile up onto Durthu, as he's just so stuck in with all these units. And I think if the Wood Elves if it's possible for the Wood Elves, they need to kind of rally around him, try and get Durthu out of this mess. But I think like the Wood Elves have also committed. So they committed in trying to save him with their cav, but then the Forest Goblin Spider Riders got in behind them. So it's just a pincer, like a hammer and anvil against them, and there's not a whole lot that they can do. Though the Stone Trolls, that is a big unit that is routing right now, and there should be plenty of mobility. Not in the immediate area. There's probably nothing close enough to keep these Stone Trolls off the field. Had those Stone Trolls been able to be pushed off, as a heal is now going, or a heal was going to go down on them. Actually, it looks like Durthu has been able to tank out this damage fairly well, able to push off pretty much all the units now as we have the Goblin Big Boss is wavering. Stone Trolls are still running, as now the Glade Riders have been able to get free of this initial engagement. They were very close to routing at one point, but now they shatter, actually, the Stone Trolls, and I think things are starting to look a lot better for the Wood Elves now, as Durthu is very low, but he was able to tank that damage out, deal the damage back, and break out of that blob and actually rout off the Goblin Big Boss. So yeah, I think that heal I saw on the Stone Trolls earlier was actually a Earthblood trying to go down on the Glade Riders. It just looked like it was centered on the Stone Trolls. But now Durthu and Grom are engaged. I think Grom, he's not going to do well in sustained combat, I don't think. He needs to be kind of cycling through the units, and Durthu's just going to be putting the beat down on him. But yeah, Durthu still does need to get assistance from, I mean, he doesn't really have a whole lot of assistance close by. We still have some cavalry forces in the surrounding area. The Glade Riders still have quite a bit of ammo left, so they're able to kind of fire in. I think they need to kind of deal with the other poison source from the Greenskins, and so if they're off the field, that means Durthu's going to be fighting at his peak for efficiency. And now some of the Wild Riders have come in to assist as the Snotling Pump Wagons also try and come in and break them. Though it looks like the Orc Shaman was actually able to break some of these Wild Riders, at least for now. Yeah, these Wild Riders don't want to be stuck in sustained combat for any longer than they have to. They really need to keep their mobility. Losing that mobility for the Wood Elves is going to be the biggest problem for them, though they really, I mean, you need to have the mobility, but at the same time, you still need to have support for Durthu, and there isn't anything left to support Durthu. So I think that was probably a problem with the Wood Elf build, is there just wasn't, there's too much mobility. They needed at least a little bit more to at least last longer than the Dryads, or have a lord that was more mobile than Durthu. Yeah, I mean, we still, okay, so the Goblin Big Boss is routed for a second time. The balance power has actually gone back a little bit more towards the, more even, as a lot of these forces that keep washing up against Durthu just keep getting repelled time and time again. So even though you think that Durthu just isn't able to hold back, he continues to do better and better, as an Earthblood is going down on these units, actually getting quite a few. So the Wild Riders, the Spellsinger, and Durthu all getting a nice little heal is going to help. But yeah, Grom is taking quite a bit of damage as the balance of power goes back into the Wood Elves' favor. Yeah, Durthu is just, I mean, I was saying before that I thought that maybe that wasn't going to go so well for them, but Durthu, again, just keeps on standing tall and just will not go down, despite what the Greenskins continue to throw at them. As now Grom is going to be routing as well. Wow, this was quite the back and forth match for sure. Yeah, it's just pretty much down to this, as Durthu just keeps on routing everything that comes against him. We do have the Wild Riders are getting very close to routing as well. But again, now there's just nothing left for the Greenskins to deal with them. And it's going to be just Durthu and the Spellsinger left. And all that's left is the 8 Peak Loonies. So that did not go the way that I would have expected those engagements to go. And it looked like Durthu was so isolated for so long, but the Greenskins just couldn't do the damage to him. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Durthu does have the Sword of Daith, Flock of Doom, and the Curse, that one Curse as well. And that's pretty much all anti-blob. So yeah, Durthu, MVP of that match, just able to tank everything and anything that the Greenskins would throw at them. And yeah, I mean, losing the Stone Trolls was really big for the Greenskins, though. But that will even up our scores. So 1-1, so we're going into the third match. So, yeah, we'll get the next map underway, and now Iron Thunder will pick 3. Let's see. Let's go with, where is it? Go with the Sword of Torgold. Yeah, for the greenskins, I agree with Viking there, where the Rusty Arrows or the Mangy Marauders have been very good, because even just against like even the tree blobs of any kind, any of the treemen or the what is that other tree, the treekin, against either of those units, it would have been very helpful. So for this next one. So yeah, Iron Thunder will pick 3. So yeah, Iron Thunder has gone Beastmen and Wood Elves so far. Hadries has gone with Lizardmen and the Greenskins. Did I say Iron Thunder? I meant Iron General. Yes, Iron General. Yeah, Shetland. My favorite race would probably be Vampire Counts, though Norska is quickly becoming a close second. As we have Iron General going VP Greenskins and Norska. Yeah, I definitely like. I've never been good with the kite strategy or anything like that. A lot more straightforward than that. I just don't have the patience to do anything like that, and that's kind of the biggest area I think for me to improve, is being a bit more patient with units, waiting on engagements. But I do like playing as Norska. It is a kind of a lot straightforward matchup, and I do like. There's quite a few ways I like playing the counts as well. Yeah, I will make the counts work, Viking. They may not have a lot of really good matchups, but so waiting on Hadries pick and ban. So Coast Greenskins Norska. Could ban Coast, pick Coast. So he look like he's thinking High Elves. And High Elves, I mean, I'd say they have a decent pick against all of these factions. Well, yeah, Greenskins was already played by Hadries. Well, no, it's whatever Iron General picks. So he would ban Greenskins. He could ban Greenskins if he didn't want Iron General to play. Because Hadries will be going, he'll be going High Elves and banning Norska, so it'll either be Coast or Greenskins. So I guess either one. I'd say High Elves have the advantage in both of these matchups. But I mean, either one has opportunities to do well. It just depends on the builds and how they shake out. Yep, yeah, Attila. It was a very fun match or fun game. I see myself going back every now and then. I didn't like some of how the campaign mechanics worked, but I really loved the battles in Attila. I liked how the AI worked in there. So Iron Thunder will be going with Greenskins. So our last match will be High Elves and Greenskins, and then we will be off to the final with whoever wins between these two. Yeah, I still watch. I mean, some of the sieges in Attila, I think, were also very, very fun. I think a lot of sieges of the historical Total War games have all been pretty good. And that's just one thing that I know Warhammer lacks a bit. Unless you have, there's some single player mods that you can get some pretty cool siege maps. Yeah, Napoleon was actually the game that got me into Total War. All right. Hopefully they should be getting ready pretty quick. About Getting kind of close to 3 minutes of army picking, so after a little bit longer, we'll see how close they're all ready to go. Alright, so it looks like Hadries is set, and so is Iron General. And we will get into this rubber match in our second semi-final series. Alright, looks like armies are getting loaded in. So we'll be going over the High Elf army first. Looks like we do have a Flamespire Phoenix up in the sky. And for the Lord, we do have a Anar, actually, with a Mage of Life and a Mage of Metal. All on foot, so it looks like that's Plague of Rust. Just double check. So that is Plague of Rust. Mage of Light is bringing Earthblood, and Anar, of course, just has the Moonbow. For the rest of the infantry department, we have a front line of Silverin Guard. And for the range, we have 3 archers, and we have 2 rangers as well. And then for mobility, we have 2 units of Dragon Princes. And of course, that Flamespire that we saw earlier. So that's, I mean, it's a pretty, with the exception, I think, of Anar, that's a really just standard kit. I mean, you have the Plague of Rust to deal with, which, I mean, I guess you also have the Black Orcs. And a Stone Trolls, but for Iron General's army of Greenskins, we have a front line, which is very elite. We have 3 Black Orcs units. We also have Savage Orcs on the far flanks. We have a Broken Tusk Mob, and then we have Goblin Archers with the Rusty Arrows, getting some nice armor sundering. For the leadership department, we have Wurzag on his boar. So take a quick look at what he has brought to the table today. We have the Foot of Gork. So it'll be a very punishing spell if you're able to get that one off in the right spot. And we have Fist of Gork, and then we have Get Back Here and Effigy of Dagit. We have, of course, the Ragnarok Queen, and we have a Goblin Big Boss with They Need Stabbin'. So, and that pretty much wraps things up. So actually fairly elite on both sides. Silverin Guard versus Black Orcs. Black Orcs should be winning that frontline engagement, but it just depends on how well you got the Plague of Rust. I think that'll allow the archers to do very well. Hadries is ready, and I know Iron Thunder looks to be ready as well. So I'll say start when ready. Yep, the armies are underway. The Lethanar kind of sitting up front, getting some shots in with the Moonbow, firing into the Black Orcs, really just kind of going through them, not really getting that explosive damage in the middle of their unit. So Lethanar will be kind of pulling back into the safety of his army as he just plucks away some more shots into the Black Orcs as he is retreating. But yeah, pretty much it's going to be, you have the Mage Metal with Plague of Rust to deal with the Arachnarok Queen to quickly get her down. So she is at 120 armor, so with Plague of Rust, get that down. Focus fire with archers or any of the Black Orcs as well. Oh. Sorry for the sound to cut off. Screen minimized for a second there, but we are back. Flamespire just kind of circling around, getting some drops in with his bombing ability. Yeah, the Rusty Arrows are probably a very good target for him to be getting as much damage in as he can. So far, the bombs have been finding their target very well, doing a very nice bombing run. Nothing's really kind of stopping to fire up against them. I think having the archer units could have paused and just opened up on that Flamespire, but that Flamespire was able to just advance and do its bombing runs without any threat whatsoever, with the archers just continuing to move. But now, yeah, we have some archers that are starting to get in range of the High Elf archers, as the Black Orcs are starting to move up to the front line. So it does look like we have a Plague of Rust, minus 60 armor. So now all the archers are going to be targeting that, focus firing that down. So now it's down to 50 armor. It's still not nothing, so the archers aren't going to be doing as much, but they are doing quite a bit of damage, much more than it would have been. It looks like we have a summon of spider hatchlings going to be coming down behind these archers to help stop them from firing. Though we do have some dragon princes in the rear that could help, but we have the rangers, which will make quick work of those spider hatchlings. Though this one unit of Black Orcs got whittled down so much, like by the time it's gotten to the Silverin Guard, it's pretty much on the verge of routing. They are wavering right now, as these Silverin are starting to kind of back up a little bit, as letting these rangers deal with the Savage Orcs. As now we have these dragon princes who are going to charge through these rangers into the Black Orcs, getting a very nice charge, but we have all the ranged units of the greenskins firing in, and it looks like, yeah, the dragon princes have gotten an effigy to get with a foot of Gork, just absolutely taken them out as a charge from the Broken Tusk mob, as they tried to get a Earthblood on it, but those dragon princes are going to be short for this world. Right now the Flamespire is actually kind of soloed out this Goblin Big Boss, while these Dragon Princes have actually taken quite a bit of damage from the Greenskin Daka line, with the armor sundering from these Rusty Arrows, and then the rest of the firepower coming in. Flamespire Phoenix is really not doing as much damage to this Goblin Big Boss as I would initially have expected, and the Arachnarok Queen has actually taken a decent amount of damage, as well as another Spider Hatchling summons going down, trying to keep these archers from firing as long as possible. Right now, the balance power is still in the favor of the High Elves, even though those Dragon Princes units much got deleted by an effigy they get and a foot of Gork, followed up by this charge as Wa goes down. But losing those Black Orcs initially was kind of the trade-off that the High Elves got. And balance power is actually pretty even now, as that Wa gives a nice boost to the attack prowess of the Greenskin line. And actually, the Mage of Metal is getting pushed off by Wurzag right here. But that was quite a bit of damage taken. Going to be routing fairly quickly. I think Wurzag should be able to deal with it fairly well. But the Flamespire trying to save her as it swoops down into Wurzag. Dragon Princes are actually starting to waver as well, though the pretty much the ranged forces of the High Elves are still firing fairly well unabated. We have some Spider Hatchlings trying to get in, but there's not a whole lot of them left, as they are starting to waver as well. So I think, yeah, right now the Flamespire, if it gets its proc, that's going to be its healing proc is going to be very good for the High Elves, and the Arachnarok Queen is getting very close to going down as well. I think the Mage of Life should still be around, but actually the Mage of Life is wavering as well as is engaged with the Arachnarok Queen, but the Arachnarok Queen is probably going to rout as the Flamespire Phoenix swoops in to engage. So now there shouldn't be anything to really prevent the High Elves from pushing that Arachnarok Queen off. We have the Dragon Princes, which will be very easily able to push them off, as we have some returning units from the High Elves getting it now into the ranged units of the Greenskins. And Elithanar is still quite healthy indeed, with a few shots left in him. At this point now, pretty much just the only targets left is either the Black Orcs or Wurzag, as the Goblin Big Boss is actually trying to chase down Elithanar right now. Although, I think that there's the Flamespire Phoenix looking to come assist its lord. Looks like we have another spell coming in into the middle of these archers. A Foot of Gore coming in. That's probably going to come very close to just routing them off instantly, as I think they will be going. And there they go. But the Black Orcs are also following them off the field, as the Dragon Princes are engaged with some Savage Orcs. With how low the Dragon Princes are, those Savage Orcs might be able to keep them, might be able to actually push off the Dragon Princes, as the Arcana Queen might have a chance to come back. But we do have the Flamespire Phoenix is about to push off this Goblin Big Boss, doing the damage that I was kind of surprised I wasn't seeing earlier on. But now with those units all off the field, there's not a whole lot left. You just have Wurzag, a haggard unit of Savage Orcs, and maybe a returning Arachnarok Queen, though that is looking less likely by the second. There's got to be more units for the Greenskins left, though the High Elves are also very haggard as well, though Elithanar is at full health, but not a whole lot of ammo left. Missing his shot against Wurzag, with quite the pocket of infantry actually off to the side. So maybe if the Greenskins are able to solidify themselves enough to deal with the immediate threat, as the Wa is popped. So yeah, I mean, even with the High Elves losing any of their casters right now, I don't think that's going to be much of a problem in terms of balance of power, though the balance of power is coming a little bit back to even with the return of these Black Orcs. I think that's going to be a bit of a problem, because, I mean, the High Elves don't have a whole lot left that can deal with them. All of their archer units are either wavering, these are now routing, these units are very low, and Wurzag's actually going to try and push them off the field completely, because that is really what's left that can at least do at least some damage to these Black Orcs. Because now Elithanar is completely out of ammo. So you swing off into the infantry engagements over here. High Elves are pretty much just trying to push off whatever is left of the Greenskin support. So, I mean, right now, Elithanar is probably just going to try and regroup with the rest of his infantry units, because there's not a whole lot left. If we just kind of swing around, we do have the Flamespire Phoenix way up in the hills. That can be quite useful, because especially there's nothing that can really challenge it, and even with Elithanar and the Flamespire could pretty easily take down Wurzag, especially if that Flamespire gets its rebirth. But yeah, right now the High Elves doing a very good job of pushing off whatever is left of the Greenskins. So now it is just down to Wurzag, a unit of Savage Orcs, some 27 Black Orcs, and that is it for the Greenskins. Wurzag has managed to catch up with Elithanar. His Elithanar is like hiding behind this little tree stump, trying to just dodge Wurzag as the rest of his infantry continues to catch up. This is rather comical, seeing Elithanar just kind of hiding behind the tree, trying to dodge Wurzag as much as he can. So, yeah, Elithanar taking quite a bit of damage from Wurzag, though. Elithanar is not a melee combatant, and he's not really going to be able to run from Wurzag either. Wurzag with the Savage Orcs should be able to deal with him, though, I mean, at this point, Elithanar has gotten his value out of him, though the High Elves are rather spread out. So losing Elithanar, maybe not the worst thing in the world, but having everything so spread out, as long as, I mean, the Silvern Guard will be able to hold. That's kind of the big thing, and they should be able to deal with these Savage Orcs fairly well, especially since the Black Orcs weren't able to engage at the same time. I think had these Black Orcs been with those Savage Orcs on the charge, that may have been a little bit helpful, but I still don't think the Greenskins have enough left to deal with the Silvern Guard that are still on the field, and we have the Rangers soon to catch up, and I think a nice rear charge by the Flamespire, which should be very close now, will pretty much break the rest of these Greenskins infantry. Oh a Fist of Gorks, giving a nice boost to melee attack and melee defense. Might be enough to at least rout this one unit of Silvern Guard, but this other one still has 50 units left. And I don't think these Black Orcs and Warzag are going to be able to deal with that. And now the Black Orcs are a little separated from Warzag, so this charge in by Flamestar Phoenix might just be enough to rout him off right away. He is terrified, and he is now routing, and the rest of the army will soon follow, even though a Foot of Gork coming down at the last second. But Hadries will take it. So yeah, coming right down to the end there. I mean, Black Orcs did very well. This one unit here with only 8 kills was the one that got focused down by that Plague of Rust and Archer Fire in the beginning. But again, I mean, Silver Guard would just did what they needed to. They were able to hold, and I think getting the greenskin ranged units compromised was really what it was. So yep, Hadries will now be against Ronin. So Ronin, I know you are in chat, so hop on in as we update. So yeah, so our bracket, not that. So there we go, our bracket. And it'll be Ronin and Hadries fighting for the 4th spot in our final playoff bracket. So we will update the scoreboard. All right. Oh, what are we gonna go? Let's go with all right. So map is set. Ronin has first pick. All right, so for those who are joining or have recently joined, this is the start of our finals bracket. So this is going to be our best of 5. So Ronin is going to be going Wood Elves, Banning, Dawi, and High Elves. So we'll be seeing Ronin's Wood Elves in our first match today with Hadries. So yeah, we have been seeing quite a few Wood Elf matches in our semifinals and finals so far. I think Hadries is thinking of going Bretonnia by the looks of his pick, and he is going to be going with Bretonnia. So yeah, I think this is definitely something that Bretonnia has the advantage in. Their mobility is just so much better. And it's just, As long as they don't get like netted down by like a Prey of Anathema and some Waywatcher fire, I think they'll have quite the advantage, at least in that department. Frontline generally would go for the Wood Elves here, but I don't. Yeah, the Bretonnian forces don't rely on their front line. Their front line is pretty much just a holding. You do have battle pilgrims, and men at arms are fairly decent as well. That can hold and do a decent amount of damage, but the peasants aren't going to be doing a whole lot. Though the peasant bowmen, on the other hand, can do very well in enough numbers. Though I know Ronin has probably faced off against these Bretonnian forces before, so I'm sure he'll be well prepared for what they may be bringing. So Hadries is ready. So we are just waiting on Ronin, and we can get this, and he is ready. So we will get this show going as we load on in. All right. Alright, so for the Bretonnian forces led by Hadries, we have the Fey Enchantress, and it looks like we had 2 Paladins up in the sky to support. I'm guessing they are both going to be bringing... I see, we do not see the Guardian on either one of them, but for the Fey, we have Earthblood, we have Shield of Thorns, and we have Regrowth. And the targets of those heals will be all of these units. We have Knights Errant, Knights of the Realm, Grail Knights, so we have 3 Grail Knights, 2 Knights of the Realm, and a Knights Errant. We have 3 Peasant Bowmen. We have 2 with Fire Arrows and 1 with Pox Arrow. Fire Arrows will do well against any of the tree units, Dryads, Treekin, or the Ancient Treemen. And we also have a front line that is going to just be peasant mobs off into the sunset, so it's going to be very reliant on the mobility of their cavalry. And now if we take a swing on over to the Wood Elves led by Ronin, we have, for the leadership department, let's see, we have a Glade Lord. So the Glade Lord is just going to be bringing Prey of Anathema and Arrows of Kurnos. For the front line, I guess we just have a lineup of Eternal Guards. We have 4 of those. We have a couple of War Dancers with Azrai Spears to deal or help deal with the cavalry. We have a Spellsinger Life with Earthblood, and for the mobility, we have 3 Wild Riders. We have 3 Waywatcher units, and that will wrap things up there. So it's pretty much going to be the whole net them down and nuke them with the Waywatchers, and then just help the Wild Riders screen things out. And that will be our builds for today. So the Ronin is ready. It looks like Hadries is probably ready as well. We can start when ready. Yep, Dactyr, very much a classic Wood Elf versus Bretonnia build, and there's not really a whole lot of reason to change that up. Neither faction has really, I don't think either faction has gotten a single update since their release. The only real change has been the poison effects that changed recently, so the pox arrows is going to be the only real big change for Bretonnia. Otherwise, yeah, it's been, these two matchups have not changed how they are played. So arrows of Kurnos arcing in, dropping pretty much straight down onto these Grail Knights. It looks like it did take out 3 models. So very, I guess, has been as well as you can expect. Paladins flying overhead. Oh, they do have to be a little careful. These Weight Watchers, though they are, the Paladins are up in the air, will easily be able to snipe them out. Though, I mean, with their stagger, it might help if they get netted. But it looks like the Wild Riders are going to be getting some nice free charges into these peasant mobs, getting as much free damage as they can. Looks like because the Knights Errant are a little just too far away, pretty much instantly routing this unit of peasant mobs, bringing them to wavering, not doing a whole lot of damage, but the fire arrows just raining down, doing quite a decent amount as well. These shots from the Way Watchers going into these peasant mobs is definitely not shots that these Way Watchers want to be taking. They want to save their ammo as much as they can. They're going to need it to deal with all of the cavalry forces. So now they are getting a lot of good targets in. This unit of Grail Knights is brought down to almost half by just a couple volleys from these Way Watchers. More shots raining in point blank pretty much to these Grail Knights, and these Way Watchers do need to start getting back. You do have these Wild Riders here to help screen out, and the cavalry, it doesn't look like, though, a nice net going down right before they are able to get their charge. Just get some nice point-blank shots raining in onto these Grail Knights, but now these Way Watchers are going to want to back up because that net will be expiring, and the rest of the Bretonnian forces are starting to collapse on their position. These Knights of the Realm almost clipping these Way Watchers, but the Eternal Guard are able to absorb that charge just as the Way Watchers are able to get behind them. More shots raining in on these Wild Riders, though these Knights Errant have gotten caught in between the Eternal Guard and the Wild Riders, which is going to be very good for them. Knights Errant starting to rout off the field. All right, now, yeah, Bretonnia has not been able to break the shell of the Wood Elves, as the more Wild Riders are able to screen out these Knights of the Realm, as the Way Watchers are continuing to be able to just fire freely. All 3 units, only 1 unit has taken a little bit of damage, but there is a gap in the line as these peasant mobs are starting to kind of try and push through, though these Eternal Guard are going to be able to intercept, though there is another free unit of peasant mobs waiting to try and break through. And we do have actually some units of Knights of the Realm trying to push through these Wild Riders, but these 2 units are going to be able to hold them off and push them back even, as the Grail Knights are now pushing through and actually getting into the cookie jar, as well as this other unit of Grail Knights, which at the last second turns to get a rear charge off onto these Eternal Guard, trying to break down the protection of these Way Watchers, since that this unit of Grail Knights has gotten into the cookie jar and is able to at least shut down 1 and push off the other 2. So at least for the time being, the Way Watchers have, for the most part, silenced in at least the meantime. The Glade Lord is at least close by. There should be another net before too long, as now the Paladins are coming into the fight, as the Fey Enchantress is in with this frontal engagement, getting some nice damage off onto both these Eternal Guard and the Wild Riders. Not a whole lot that can take her down right now. And Paladins getting in, breaking these Wild Riders, and again, now the Way Watchers just are losing their screening elements. So like the Wild Riders are now broken right now. They should be able to get chased off. Potentially not. They might come back because both of these Grail Knights and the Wild Riders are routing, though the 2 Paladins are going to be a real threat to kind of deal with. Though it looks like, at least for now, these Way Watchers have gotten a bit of space to deal with. And Paladin taking some very nice shots from these Way Watchers. Frontline engagement. That Fey Enchantress is about half health, so those Spearmen, or the Eternal Guard, are doing fairly decent. Now all 3 of these Way Watchers are trying to focus down this Paladin. It is wavering right now and will very soon be routing, and there it goes. And then I'm sure they will change their target to the second Paladin, going to quickly be breaking that as well. Now, in terms of being able to chase those 2 units off, there isn't a whole lot. I mean, you can have the Wild Riders pretty much ride underneath them, but you still have, actually, when you take a look around, you don't see a whole lot of the cavalry department left for Bretonia, it's pretty much just you have the archers, and it does look like the Wood Elves are going to be able to hold off the tide of the Bretonian cavalry as the focus fire from the Way Watchers is able to deal the damage, and even just the Eternal Guard alone was able to deal with the Fey Enchantress, and that will be army losses, and it looks like Ronin will take the first match against Hadries' Bretonians, and the Wood Elves do take that win. So yeah, the classic Wood Elf build was able to win the day. Pretty much, yeah, the Eternal Guard just held their ground long enough. The Wild Riders did very good at being able to screen out the approaching cav and allowed the Way Watchers to get all the kills that they needed. And so yeah, it was very well played by Ronin, and Hadries just could not break through and get at those Way Watchers for long enough. So GG, well played. Okay, Zyphos, calm down. Yes, Ronin taking that compliment very well. It is a very, very big compliment coming from Hadries, especially to a Wood Elf main. So, that will be our first one. So we will update the score for Ronin as he takes an initial lead in this best of 5. And then we will get the map set for the next one. Go with River Amaxon. So yeah, 360 firing bug where they shoot at something even when you turn off fire at will. That happens when the target that you have them shooting at is out of their range, and they will then shoot at the next closest target even though they have the fire at will off. So you have to give them another command that isn't the fire order. Or I guess Dactor would probably know a bit more about that as well. So it may be that as well. I think I've seen that go both ways. Alright, so this looks like Hadries is thinking of going Tomb Kings for this next match. So he's going to be Tomb Kings, and he's banning High Elves and Norska. So I think, yeah, those are two very good bans for the Tomb Kings. The other matchups that I think they struggle a bit with, they can struggle against Coast, though they can also do very well at Coast depending on what they bring. The other option is Empire, and I think with how... yeah, I think Empire just generally struggles, but actually Ronin's going to be going Dark Elves. That is a bold pick. Tomb Kings are generally good against the Dark Elves with the right hands, but yeah. Very interesting pick by Ronin, unless he knows something that we don't. Unless we're going to see some wild picks on that end. James not liking the Tomb Kings or the Dark Elves. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. I mean, for looking at both of these factions, I mean, you can play this. I think both factions have different tools, but I think Dark Elves, what we're probably going to see is a line of Reaper Bolt Throwers, because they do well against Ushapti, and they have the artillery pieces. or, I mean, even single entities. They'll do very well against like a casket. It pretty much nullifies the use of a casket is the presence of Reaper Bolt Throwers. Unless there's, I mean, this map, there are actually a few places where a casket could be hidden that is at least partially obstructed. So Hadries is ready to go. But otherwise, you'll probably see, okay, you see Dark Shards or Shades, I'm sure. And I'm going to guess at least we're going to see the Lore of Fire. It just depends on if you see a Supreme Sorceress or just a regular caster. Alright, so Ronin is ready as well, and we will get this next battle started. Our second match in this best of 5. It'll be Hadries leading the Tomb Kings, and Ronin with the Druki. Yeah, full kite empire is pretty much a lot of, you have Pistoliers, you have Outriders. I mean, that's pretty much the bulk of your kite ability. It's going to be those 2 units. Yeah, you also got grenade launchers depending on the faction. So, actually on this side of the map there isn't really a good place for a casket, because yeah, we'll have Hadries on this side with the Tomb Kings, and Ronin will be on the far side. Yeah, you could probably, I mean, Shopti with Great Bow, or even regular Shopti. You could see, I mean, Sepulchral Stalkers, or just the Necropolis Knights. I think Tomb Guard, you'll probably see at least 2 or 3 of those units. Though, I guess it all depends on what style you want to go with, as both armies have been loaded in, and we'll see what the Tomb Kings have brought for us today. We have Arkan the Black, looked like he was on foot. So, yeah, Arkan is going to be on foot. He is going to be bringing Spirit Leech, Fate of Buna, and of course the rest of his units, so Libra Mortis, Staff of Nagash, and the Tomb Blade of Arkan. Pretty much what you're going to be seeing in most matches, though you'll often see him either on a horse or on his chariot. Now for the front line, we have Skeleton Warriors across the board, and then we have 3 units of Tomb Guard, so it was right on those fronts at least, and we have a fairly decent skirmishing force. We have a couple Necron Horsemen, and we have 4 Skeleton Horsemen Archers. We also have the Hero Titan as well, or as known in this community, the Arrow Titan, and a Necrotech to help heal him up with that nice little heal on constructs. And it looks like, and we have a couple, 1 unit of Carrion by the looks of it, and that is going to wrap things up for the Tomb Kings. So very much going to be a skirmishing with the Cav there, but the Dark Elves have very good skirmishers themselves, but it doesn't look like we see a whole lot today. We do have 2 Reaper Bolt Throwers, so they will do, I mean, they'll do fairly well against the Cav. They don't have any of the kind of Ushapti or any artillery pieces to shoot at. They could also be shooting at the Arrow Titan as well. We have 2 Cold One Knights. The front line is going to be some Dread Spears. We have a couple of Black Art Corsairs, which are very good against any of the skeleton units, not so much against the Tomb Guard. We have 3 of those by the looks of it. And then we have a backline of Dark Shards, and we have the Supreme Sorceress of Fire up in the sky with Fireball, Burning Head, and Flaming Sword. And that will wrap things up. So it looks like at least one army is all set, so I can say start, win, ready, though they already started. All right, and yeah, pretty much the Tomb Kings are going to be looking to skirmish as much as they can. They'll just have to stay out of range of the Dark Shards, though the Reaper Bolt Throwers are going to continue to fire in. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, the Tomb Kings are going to be advancing. Just the Skeleton Horsemen themselves aren't going to be able to do enough damage with the Dark Shards and the Reaper Bolt Throwers being able to help pretty much screen them out from dealing damage to, for example, the Cold One Knights that they need to, or any of the frontline troops. Though a very a lot of, looks like an Overcast did quite a bit of damage to the Supreme Sorceress as it fires into the Arrow Titan, not doing as much damage as was taken from that miscast. So yeah, right now, the skirmishing is very much going to be in the favor of the Tomb Kings, though just pretty much the counter fire, you have the two remote throwers and you have the Dark Shards. So the skeleton archers aren't going to be able to get close enough to really do anything. But we have Blackheart Corsair starting to poke its way nose out, and we have a Spirit Leech Overcast as well going down, though the Opal Amulet is also cast, trying to negate at least some of that damage, and that was also from some of the skirmishing cav. Arkan has taken just a minor amount of damage, though it looks like they are overloading their right flank a bit as the Cold One Knights and the Blackheart Corsairs are pressuring these Skeleton Warriors. And yeah, these Skeleton Warriors just pretty much trying to pull as many of these Dark Elf units out of the way. Though, because I mean, those Blackheart Corsairs will just absolutely munch through those Skeleton Warriors. We have actually the Sisters of Singing Doom, so I missed them before. So they're going to be rampaging these Skeleton Warriors pretty much instantly, as they do, and they'll just tear them to pieces. Nice charge by the Tomb Guard, though. They will do well against the Dread Spears, and that is what we have on this flank, is the Tomb Guard. So it's definitely an overload. We do have some of the Carrion now coming in, looking to shut down some of the Dark Shards as best they can. We have a Spirit Leech going down on these Cold One Knights. So yeah, the Supreme Sorceress, as long as she stays away from the Skeleton Horseman, and probably at this point needs to avoid overcasting anything else, though the Tomb Blade of Arkan has dropped a nice Skeleton Warrior summon on top of the Dark Shards, so it looks like we have a Burning Head, which is going to be roasting through these unit of Skeleton Warriors. And is it going to clip a bit of these Skeleton Warriors as well? It does. It does a nice bit of damage there, pretty much instantly crumbling away this unit, freeing up these Dread Spears to either engage the Skeleton Warriors in the back or try and put a little bit of pressure onto the Skeleton Horsemen. So now that we have the Murderous Prowess has been popped for the Dark Elves, though it looks like one of the Cold One Knights have completely been shattered in the back, as the Hecarim Horsemen are able to now break into the Cookie Jar and put a lot of pressure onto the back line of the Dark Elves, as they have rounded off some remote throwers, getting nice rear charges into the Blackheart Corsairs, as they are now trying to kind of meangle their way through these units, get into the Dark Shards as best they can, and another Spirit Leech going down, overcasted as well, onto the Supreme Sorceress. And more fire coming in with Tomb Guard now pretty much free to come in. The Ashapti summons getting down on top of these Dread Spears, as well as the Sisters of Singing Doom, which have Rampage to Carrion, so at least that air pressure is going to be off the table, though the balance power is still very even, as pretty much both sides have sacrificed one flank or the other, with Hadries overloading his right flank and has really put a lot of pressure. So there's a lot of units massed up on this side, as the Dark Elves are kind of pushing or falling back and regrouping around this Reaper Bolt Thrower, and has salvaged a couple units of the Dark Shards, as we have a good health unit of Cold One Knights to help assist, as the Ashapti are now going to be dissipating fairly soon, as their summon is going to be wearing out. And a very nice rampage right as the Hecarim Horsemen get up into the Dark Shards, and they rampage straight into the Dread Spears. So that was a very nice... So as they were pulling out of this engagement with the Sisters of Singing Doom, they were able to get... The Sisters of Singing Doom were able to get some damage off onto these Hecarim Horsemen, rampaging them at pretty much the perfect time. Though we do have some Skeleton Horsemen starting to put pressure on the backline, as there isn't any infantry, at least in that side of the field, as they now are charging into these Dark Shards and these Rear Bolt Throwers. So that's kind of the end of that threat there, as it pretty much shutting down both units at the same time, as we now only have we still have 3 units of Dark Shards open to fire, but there's not a whole lot to protect them anymore, as we have this kind of initial blob here, though a nice Burning Head at this point could do wonders for the Dark Elves, as we have a Soul Quench coming in. I believe that is... So just nailing the Supreme Sorceress. So that is a Shem's Burning Gauge, not Soul Quench. Should know that. Don't use the Harrow Titan as much as I could. But yeah, nice contact there, as the Dark Shards, though, are nice focusing it down, as these Hecarim Horsemen archers just aren't able to shut down all of those ranged units. So this is kind of where the Dark Elves can make their way back, as the Sisters of Singing Doom, right before they rout, are able to rampage the Hero Titan, so it will be staying engaged for at least a little bit longer, allowing all these Dark Shards to fire in as often as they can. A Fireball arcing in. Looks like it was just hitting at the feet of the Hero Titan, so that the Fireball doesn't actually target its center of mass, really it targets its center of its unit, by the looks of that. Though, yeah, the Hero Titan is going to be going down, as the balance of power is now in the Dark Elves' favor. And looks like the Dark Elves will take it, as Ronin is able to focus down enough of the Tomb King's units. That Arrow Titan was just such a big target, and the Sisters of Singing Doom, I think, did very, very well. They helped with rampaging some key units at some key times to prevent, like, for example, it prevented the Arrow Titan from really getting up into the engagement, and it prevented the Horsemen from getting into the backline of the Dark Elves. So it looked like the Tomb Kings definitely had an early advantage getting into a lot of the backline units, but they just weren't able to pull that one in. Nope. Hadries, yep, no, we're not done yet. It's best of 5 for the finals. Yeah, okay, so Hadries almost left there. So Hadries is not out of it just yet. Update the scorecard. All right. All right, you guys are using up all of my maps. Have we done this one yet? I think we did Summer Song the first time, so I don't think we've done this one. All right, so Ronin will have his pick. Oh, that is right. I mean, I'm not actually sure what, I've seen it just be pick double ban throughout the whole thing. And I've also seen some people say it's pick single ban. I think we've been doing pick double ban, so we'll continue with that for now. So let's see, Ronin. So that does not go all the way up. See, Ronin is going to be going Empire, banning Dawi and Coast. Dawi is a good ban in that matchup. Coast, though, I'm not so sure about that. Empire can do well in that matchup, though I think with the bombers and the current state that they are, gives Coast a bit more punch in that matchup. Though I don't know how much longer that's going to last, because Coast is supposed to be getting a nerf before too long. It looks like I have. Alright, so Hadries will be going Dark Elves in this matchup. This is a very even matchup in my opinion. I think both sides, both sides have a lot of different tools to be used. Yeah, because both can kite, both can bring, not necessarily artillery on both sides, but you can still bring like Reaper Bolt Throwers on the Dark Elf side, cannons. Mostly just cannons. Mortars aren't necessarily a bad pick either. You could either, I've seen war wagons with mortars actually do fairly decently. Okay, so Hadries is ready, but he will be right back. Alright, so Ronin is ready as well, and Hadries, and I'm sure you heard my dog in the background trying to... Yeah, that's my dog in the background. She still has an hour before her dinner, but she thinks it's now. Well, I don't really have a webcam available now, but actually, nope. Let's see, might be able to... Oh, I don't have anything on this computer. We'll have to... I'll get a picture for at another time. Alright, so armies have loaded in. So we have the Dark Elf forces. It looks like we have at least one Feral Manticore up in the sky. We have the Supreme Sorceress of Beasts. She has Flock of Doom and the Transformation of Kadan. We have 3 Reaper Bolt Throwers. Do well against any, I guess pretty much cav and artillery that the Empire would have brought. We have Bleak Swords. We have a couple of those. We have a couple Blackheart Corsairs, 2 Witch Elves. We have, it looks like, the Blackguard of Nagaron. We have 2 of those units. And we have 3 Dark Riders with repeater crossbows in that Feral Manticore up in the sky. Now for the Empire forces, we have a front line of the Sigmar Sons. We have some Flagellants and flanked by Spearmen on both sides and a couple more Spearmen in the back line. We have a couple unit of Pistoliers. We have Boris Todbringer up in the sky. And we also have a Amber Wizard with Flock of that does not look like Flock of Doom. It looks like we do have Transformation of Kadan, and he may have brought the Amber Spear. He did bring the Amber Spear. And for the rest of it, we have some Empire Knights on both sides, as well as one unit of Demigryph Knights and Knights of the Blazing Sun. So Blackguard will do well against those units, but otherwise, I mean, pretty much the response against the cavalry will be these Reaper Bolt Throwers, and hopefully try and get these Witch Elves to rampage any units into these Blackguard, while the Blackheart Corsairs and Bleak Swords will pretty much mulch through, well, specifically the Blackhearts will mulch through the front line of the Empire, but the Empire will be pretty much skirmishing, but the Dark Riders, I think, will be able to trade pretty well into the Pistoliers. Now, Outriders may have been a different story. So they may start when ready. And armies are underway. It looks like the revolt throwers will probably reposition to get a clean line of sight onto the forces of the Empire. And the Empire are probably, they only have a couple skirmisher forces, and they're just Pistoliers, so they'll probably have to stay clear at least of these Dark Riders. I believe the Dark Riders will trade well into the Pistoliers. I think 2 Pistoliers will do well, but with having against 3 Repeaters, I don't think that'll do as well. And as I said before, I think Outriders would have been a different story. So, yeah, Repeater crossbows are firing in, doing some decent damage against the Pistoliers. And the return fire from the Pistoliers are pretty much missing their shots and not doing a whole lot, as now the Revolt Throwers are now also firing in to these Pistoliers, pretty much tearing through their lines, trying to at least focus down one of the units. So it looks like now the Repeater Crossbows have changed their attention to these Empire Knights, and they are dishing out quite a bit of damage. Flagellants will try and at least push them off. I think that looks like they'll get at least a little bit of a charge in before these Repeaters are able to pull back. But I'll at least give the Empire Cavalry a little bit more space. I think they're probably going to swing around and target these Knights of the Blazing Sun. And the Feral Manticore, Boris should be able to trade well into that. And the Amber Spear going into the Supreme Sorceress of Beasts, doing some decent damage. But we have the Feral Manticore summon going down. So now we have 2 Manticores in the sky as Boris then drops down into support of his spears and cavalry units. So I don't think he's going to want to be engaging both of these Manticores at the same time. Though at the same time, now we have a Feral Manticore summon from the Empire side to help with that engagement, though this summon is now on top of Boris, and there's no reason not to really do that there. That summon will dissipate one way or the other, so no need to be conservative with that summon. Now the other unit, that is going to be a different story. But it looks like we do have some units of Flagellants are engaged with these Witch Elves, as the Blackguard, not necessarily the engagement they want to be in. They need to be waiting in the wings to engage with the cavalry forces, but this unit of Feral Manticore, the non-summoned one, is actually routing and actually very close to shattering, as this summoned unit is probably going to push it off, as both of the Feral Manticores are going to be going down for the Dark Elves, at least for now. It looks like we have some rampaging going on in the front line, as the Knights of the Blazing Sun and the Sigmar Sons have been rampaged by these units of Witch Elves into these Blackguard Corsairs. Now, unfortunately, these Blackguard of Nagaron are not close enough, and the Witch Elves do pull in, engage these Demigryph Knights as these Blackguard pull in, as shots just rain in against these Demigryph Knights. So it's a very good rampage right there. And I think it's going to get both of its rampages in, so these Demigryph Knights are going to be stuck in for a very long time. In the back line, we still have the Spearmen rampaging into those Witch Elves. But yeah, that broke those Demigryph Knights so quickly with the firepower from all the Repeater Crossbows. The Reaper Bolt Throwers just did so much damage, especially with the Blackguard in combat right there. So we take a look back, we have some more units on the flanks, but it definitely looks like the Dark Elves are doing fairly well right now. They have gotten their engagements that they needed. Despite the initial... the Empire just getting picked apart by the ranged forces of the Dark Elves. The Rampages have been really on point. Looks like they're going to be getting another one off onto these Knights of the Blazing Sun, as they do get their charge in, but they are stuck in combat as the Blackguard now get a nice little surround off. Going to be dealing with them fairly well. A Amber Spirit goes in to the Supreme Sorceress, but Boris Todbringer has been routed. The firepower from these Reaper Bolt Throwers have done quite a bit of damage, and let's see, he is pretty low right now. He's only at 457. He may be able to come back there, but the Reaper Bolt Throwers are firing right into him and might be able to take him down, because now he's all the way down to 278. Yeah, and he has shattered, so he is now off the field for good, and it definitely looks like the Dark Elves will be taking this match. So Hadries is not going to be going so quietly, as army losses then trigger for the rest of the Empire forces. So yeah, that was definitely a good show by the Dark Elves there. They got their Rampages that they need, was able to get all of the mobility stuck in against like Blackguard, or get them stuck in so these Dark Riders can just pretty much tear them apart, and the Reaper Bolt Throwers were never compromised, so they were just able to continue firing that whole match. That was pretty much how that went. So we now update the score, so it is now 2-1. So let's go. Yeah, the Blackguard were initially set up in the back with the Witch Elves kind of in the middle of them. So pretty much any attempt in the early game to push into that, and I think when Hadries noticed that Ronin wasn't really going for that avenue, they shifted more towards the front and were able to get their Rampages off there, and they had the support of the Blackguard on that frontal engagement, and pretty much just like that one unit of Demigryph Knights, when it charged in, it was like at full health, and it got Rampaged, I believe, twice, and was pretty much instantly just shattered from all of the fire that was coming in and the attacks from the Blackguard. So it looks like Hadries is going to be going with his green skins by the looks of things. So banning Coast and Tomb Kings. So very good picks for the bans there. And Ronin instantly going into with Lizardmen. So didn't even have to think about that one. I think that is, I mean, this is going to be a very good match either way. I think both sides have tools. You have the greenskins with their Rampage from like Skarsnik, which can really kind of muck up some of the large monsters of the Lizardmen. And then they have tools that can punish that as well. But I think the Lizardmen, just their infantry that they can bring, and their lords are just, they're very, very good. So it's just going to pretty much be on where things get rampaged at the right time. I think it's going to come down to something similar to that Dark Elf rampaging. Alright, so it looks like Hadries is ready on his end. I think Ronin was so quick to pick. I think he's got a good idea on what he's going to need to be bringing, so we'll see. He should be ready fairly quickly as well. This will be our 4th match of the best of 5. Currently Ronin is up 2-1. We'll see if Hadries can come back and force a rubber match. Alright, both armies are ready, so we will get this loaded up. All right. Hopefully the dog will be at least satisfied for at least the time being. Alright, and the armies seem to have loaded in, and we will get a rundown of the greenskin forces led by Hadries. So, it looks like we have a few stone giants in, and for the rest of the forces, we have a Night Goblin Warboss, actually, just on foot. No, on a squig by the looks of it. We have a Giant River Troll Hag. If we take a look at what the Nightland Warboss, he has a Tormentor Sword, so that is a good pick there. It is a nice net to get things down. He does still have the Fermented Fungi, so essentially a budget Skarsnik. We have a Giant River Troll Hag, of course, Black Orc Big Boss to get the nice leadership buffs to these forces. Of course, here are our 3 Stone Trolls, actually, so it's going to be very much a Stone Troll core. And we have some Orc Boys, Savage Orc Biggins in the front line, and that'll be the front line. And we have some Forest Goblin Spider Riders, and then we also have the 8 Peak Loonies, and we have the Moon Howlers Goblin Wolf Riders, the ROR unit there. And that will wrap things up. Let's take a quick look, because we have Spirit Leech, and it looks like we have Aspect of the Dread Knight to assist with that leadership department. And now we look at what the Lizardmen, led by Ronin, has brought today. We have Lord Mazdamundi on his mount with the Star Chamber Guardians to protect him. We have some Cold One Spear Riders in the back, some Skin Cohorts with Javelins on the far flanks. We have Saurus Warriors for the front line with some Saurus Spears. And of course we have the cohort of Sotek. And we also have a Skink Chief and the Solar Bastillodon and a couple of Chameleon Skinks to wrap things up for the Lizardmen. Yeah, it's definitely going to be, can the Lizardmen break the Stone Trolls? Because that's really going to be what it boils down to. So yeah, it looks like Hadries is at least going to initially have the upper ground, or the high ground right now, as the Chameleon Skinks are spotted by the Forest Goblin Spider Riders, so there's really no point in shooting in. I mean, they can maybe get some shots in, but they're just not going to be... The Chameleon Skinks just won't be taking much damage, if at any. Oh, the Solar Bastillon does fire in. Looks like maybe doing just a fraction of a bit of damage on the Giant River Troll Hag, but otherwise leaving her pretty much unscathed. 8 Cloonies have been spotted. So the Chameleon Skinks will be able to at least maintain that visibility, or at least they should be able to, without any additional pressure coming in from any of the other mobile units. We do have the Cold One Spear Riders in the back, which can help screen things out for them. And the Solar Bastillon firing and missing at its upcoming targets. So at that point, this Bastillon probably needs to kind of fall back a little bit, get back behind its own troops, and then kind of return fire at that point. So yeah, both the Skink Chief kind of taking a few shots in. It looks like Ronin is trying to draw in the greenskins to bring them down onto the same level, essentially. But there still is a little bit of a slope, so the greenskins are still going to be getting a slight downhill charge in, and these Savage Orc Bacons are going to do quite a bit of work against the cohort of Sotek. Though it does look like they didn't get their charge off, the Bastillodon slowed down like just enough to prevent that. But they are taking quite a bit of damage, so I think the loss of that charge and the apotheosis going down on the court of Sotek, who also have the Refuse to Die, can really be a big factor against the Savage Orcs. Though it does look like we have some Cold One Spear Riders are rampaged by the Fermented Fungi right into some Stone Trolls, which is not what they want to have happen to them. So those Cold One Spear Riders are just going to be instantly deleted, and that will be all she wrote as a banishment. Is going to be trying to come down, though it doesn't look like it's going to be getting a whole lot. Despite where it moves, it might be able to come right through these units, and it does actually look like it gets a good movement as it goes right into these units of Savage Orc Biggins, doing quite a bit of damage. So the frontline engagement hasn't gone exactly the way of the Lizardmen. They have gotten a few good engagements. The Savage Orcs being shot by these javelins was good enough to... It looks like they've been able to rout them, so now these cohorts can move on to those Orc Boys. But this blob of infantry in the center, Lord Mazamudi is going to have to carry hard with his Star Chamber Guardians. A buff, so the Curse of the Midnight Wind has gone down, but the aspect of the Dread Knight has gone off to maintain the leadership of the surrounding units. Some nice poison sources coming in from the Chameleon Skinks into the surrounding units as Mazamudi does pull out, as these Source Warriors do get a nice kind of sandwich with these Star Chamber Guardians into the surrounding blob of the Greenskins. But the Greenskins, this is kind of what they're going to want to be doing anyways. This build was designed to blob up. So blob up around the Black Orc Big Boss with all the Stone Trolls together. A Rock Drop trying to get these Chameleon Skinks, but Ronin is on top of it enough to get his troops out of the way. And now Mazamudi is off trying to peel off these Forest Goblin Spider Riders and just eliminate all the surrounding forces. It does look like a few units are starting to waver, and I think... Well, it does look like I think the Greenskins have at least the enough mobility to make sure that anything that does rout is able to come back. So now the Black Orc Big Boss with some of the Stone Troll support is now getting on top of Mazamudi and doing a fair amount of damage. Mazamudi should be able to tank that off pretty well, though he is rampage now with more Stone Trolls coming in, and that might be a very dangerous situation for the Lizardmen. Yeah, the Star Chamber Guardians really need to get back into combat with the Stone Trolls or come over to assist Mazamudi in some way. Solar Bastillodon trying to get in, doing a nice bit of leadership debuff to this unit of Stone Trolls, and it looks like a debuff is going to be going down on all these, another Curse of the Midnight Wind and a Shield of the Old One to protect the Lizardmen forces. Bounce power is still pretty dead even, maybe a tiny advantage to the Greenskins at this time, but I think we still have quite a bit to be told here, as some of these Stone Trolls are starting to rout, so we have 2 units routing at this time. But we'll see if they're able to come back. There's nothing really in the immediate area that can deal, or they can at least chase them off. I think that's probably one of the downsides to this Lizardman build, is that they lost their mobility super early, and it only had one big source. So there's nothing to help chase off these stone trolls, and they'll be able to come back, regen up, unless they're able to break the rest of these units. So one more unit of stone trolls is going down, but it's still at pretty much full health. It still has 12 units. So this is going to be able to route off, return, and then heal up with its regen. We do have a Tormentor Sword going down to prevent the Lizardmen forces from giving chase to the surrounding units. So that's an interesting use of that ability, allowing the Greenskins to get out of that blob and kind of regroup as some of these Stone Trolls have come back, and they will begin regenning once again. Yep, so yeah, these Mazmundi pretty much cleaning up the back line, or not necessarily the back line, just kind of the surrounding forces, but we do have the Black Orc Big Boss with the Night Goblin War Boss, who might have another fermented fungi, and I don't think Mazmundi's already been routed once, but Mither goes down as a ruination of cities goes down trying to clip these Orc Boys, but they all go in the same direction, so that bug still has not been picked. But Lord Mazmundi does get rampaged, but Cold-Blooded goes down from the Skink Chief, which is a very quick reaction to there, but Mazmundi is very, very low, as Shield of the Old Ones tries to prevent any more damage that is coming his way. Now his Star Chamber Guardians and the Horus Warriors are trying to regroup and help, because the Star Chamber Guardians especially will do a lot of damage to the Stone Trolls. And I think the Bastiladon, this Bastiladon right now could potentially break these Stone Trolls in the back. They don't have any leadership support back there, but Mazmundi is really kind of the key focus right now, trying to keep him alive. Well, it looks like, yeah, the Greenskins are edging more and more in the favor, in their balance of power at least, as these Stone Trolls, if they regroup with this main engagement, that is going to be curtains for these Lizardmen forces. Yeah, now the Black Orc Big Boss actually coming in, doing quite a bit of damage to what Lord Mazmundi has left for health, as one unit of Stone Trolls peels off from the Bastiladon and gets a nice charge off here. And I think that's going to be it for Mazdamundi. He's only a few hits away from going down. He is wavering right now, and now he is routing. He only has like 474 health left. So, I mean, a single Spirit Leech might be enough to bring him down. And the Bastiladon is also starting to waver. We have some Sora Spears trying to come in to screen out Mazmundi, but these Stone Trolls will just be able to get a charge in and just go right through them and continue on. It doesn't look like they are doing that just yet. So take a look at what else the Lizardmen have left. So they still have their Skink Chief. They still have both of the Chameleon Skinks. But I think, yeah, the Greenskins, they just have too much left, and there's nothing left that can deal with the Stone Trolls, especially if they stay close to the Black Orc Big Boss. Yeah, there's just nothing left that can take them down. You still have, I mean, you have the Star Chamber Guardians, that's really it, but they're starting to waver right now. I think army losses, and there they go. So the Greenskins will take this match, and Hadries will bring it back 2-2. So yeah, Stone Trolls doing very good work. And even when they were broken, there just wasn't, I mean, you had the Cold One Spear Riders, but they dropped so early. I think had those been saved, just not even engage with them at all, just wait for those Stone Trolls to break, because any of the other, you had the Moon Howlers was the next closest thing that could have dealt with them in mobility department, and yeah, the Cold One Riders would have won that engagement had that happened. So now it is down to the final game of the series. So let's see what we want to do for our final map. No, not this one. Not this one. All right. Now we've done Galbaraz. Okay, I know what we'll do. There we go. We'll do Tower of Hoeth. So now Hadries will pick 3, and this will be our rubber match. So pretty much every game so far has gone to the 3rd match. Yeah, thank you, Robert War, for joining. Yep, yeah, this next match will be up tomorrow, so yeah, come by and see the results then. So Hadries will be going Skaven, Empire, or High Elves. So a nice, interesting selection. Empire and High Elves have a pretty good spread. Not a whole lot that is bad against them. Yeah, kind of having both High Elves and Skaven on that docket as well really helps them prevent a Dwarf counterpick, because both Skaven and High Elves are good against them. So he's going to ban HE and pick High Elves. So it's going to be either Empire or Skaven versus the High Elves. I kind of feel like Hadries might go Empire here. Though I'm not sure what the Skaven High Elf matchup is like. Yeah, so Hadries will be going Empire. So we'll let these armies pick, and I'll be right back. So we gotta feed the dog. He's getting a little too anxious. All right, so it looks like both our players are still building their armies. And the winner of this match will win the qualifier for this week. We're going to see when the next one's going to be. Because next weekend's not going to work. So we'll see when the next one and how all the other tournaments are shaken out in the coming weeks. And we just pretty much want to finish off all of the qualifiers before the next DLC drops, and we haven't had any new info on that. So we'll pretty much continue as if it's going to be an October release and kind of plan on getting everything in before then. Alright, looks like Ronin is ready to go. Just waiting on Hadries. Yeah, this matchup, you can easily see bringing like a Lariel and a Star Dragon or Teclis. For the Empire side, I think I've seen builds with Volkmar, like a Flagellant and Sons of Sigmar core, and then with some handguns in the back. But we shall see what Hadries and Ronin has in store for us momentarily. Alright, looks like Hadries is also ready to go. And let's get this loaded up. Alright, so armies have loaded in, and for Hadries I see the Sunmaker. So we have the ROR Hellstorm Rocket Battery. We have Karl Franz up in the sky with the Jade Wizard, going to be bringing Regrowth and Earthblood. We have Spearmen for the front line. We have the Sigmar Sons. We have two the Hippogriff Knights, or Demigriff Knights, sorry, and one of which being the Royal Altdorf Griffites. We have a couple units of Outriders, very good skirmish cav. Of course, yes, the Sunmaker ROR unit. Be very scary to see the damage that it does. And now for the High Elf army, we have Alith Anar coming in with the Moonbow. We have the Mage of Light with Net of Amnatok and Shem's Burning Gaze. We have some Spearmen for the front line. And then we have Rangers. We have a couple units of the White Lions of Trace, some Lothern Seaguard, a couple units of Archers. We also have a Mage of Metal with Plague of Rust. And we have two Dragon Princes, one of which being the Fireborn. So we'll see how things shape up here. I don't know. I'll see how well the Sunmaker does. But I think the, especially for the cavalry department, the Outriders, 3 Outriders, mixed in with the Demigriff Knights are going to do very, very well against the Dragon Princes, especially with the support of Karl Franz, though the Moonbow and Alith Anar should be able to do well against the Sunmaker. I think it should be able to snipe out some of its models before it is able to use up all of its ammo. So I think both armies are set, and we are ready to go. Alright, so Alethanar is kind of pushing up a little bit. There's nothing really that can push into him just yet. We have some units hiding in the forests, but the Sunmaker has opened up, and we'll see where its shots are landing. Nice play to kind of back off, but still taking a ton of damage. Dragon Prince is riding right through that without taking so much as a scratch. We have the spread, though. Look at the shots that Elithanar have done into the Sunmaker. Already down to half health, and it has lost a model and lost a ton of crew as well. So if Elithanar is able to continue to fire in, so pretty much Karl Franz is, I'm guessing, going to get netted down here to allow Elithanar to back off. Elithanar was able to at least get, actually, did he completely eliminate it from the crew, or did they just pull off of the unit? I think they just pulled off, so they still have, yes, they still have 2 of their artillery models left. So they'll just get back on as soon as Elithanar has been pushed back, and the firepower from these Outriders are going to be at least keeping him honest, and now going to be firing into the Dragon Princes. So yeah, now the Dragon Princes are taking a ton of fire from these Outriders, already down to half health, and they don't really have, there's no life mage, so that damage is going to be sticking, unlike for the Empire, who has a nice bit of healing that they can do. So the Sunmaker, I'm guessing, is going to be back online fairly soon. I don't think there's anything really. Yeah, the Dragon Princes didn't go through the forest to get back at the back line, so that Sunmaker is now going to start returning fire very soon, and it's going to be just racking up the kills now. Even though it has lost a model, it was not able to lose all of it, so it's still going to be able to use all of its ammo. It'll just take a little bit longer to do it. So more shots coming out from Elithanar, and now the archers are starting to open up into the frontline troops. But here come the Demigryph Knights on the far flank, pretty much just trying to keep them away, but a nice net going down, pinning them in, as now the Fireborn can get a nice charge off with the Spearmen. So they'll be taking quite a bit of damage. So also Plague of Rust has also been popped on them. So they have very low armor and they're taking a ton of damage. So this is really what the High Elves needed to do. They needed to isolate a unit and just pretty much nuke it down as quickly as they can. Because one Dragon Prince unit isn't going to be able to do a whole lot. The other unit's at about half. But now the Royal Altdorf Knights are getting a nice counter charge with Karl Franz and some Spearmen supporting. Another Spearman unit is coming to assist, but these Fireborn are also going to be taking a lot of damage. They do need to try and pull back at this point. They don't have any more support from their spell casting at this time, as the Sunmaker rains in on the Lothern Seaguard. But yeah, these Fireborn are pretty much completely surrounded right now. They're taking a lot of damage, and they just need to pull out as they finally do try. But we'll see if they are able to make it, as Shem's Burning Gaze looks like coming through, clipping a few units of the Outriders, probably not doing as much as that spell was worth. And more shots raining in. I'm actually missing all of its shots on that volley. Yeah, even with the damage taken to both of the Dragon Princes, the Royal Altdorf Knights can pretty much heal up to full health here, while the Dragon Princes, the Fireborn especially, have now been routed off the field. And even though the balance of power does seem to be a little bit in the favor of the High Elves, there's not a whole lot of support left for them anymore. They still have one unit of Dragon Princes. This one's going to shatter fairly soon. Another net going down, and a lot of focus fire. Though, despite the net, they can still take off. So that looked like it was kind of like Karl Franz was like charging forward. Though despite the net, it really should pin them to the ground. But at least for the time, he's now stuck up in the air. So all these archer units are going to be able to fire in. Dragon Princes are able to kind of screen out these Outriders. I think some of these, I think those are the White Lions of Trace. At this point, they need to kind of regroup back into the main line. They're not going to be able to get enough value quick enough on the Sunmaker, who is actually only down to one unit, or one artillery piece. Now Karl Franz taking a lot of fire from the surrounding archers, and Elithanar continuing to pluck away. Fire raining down on some more Lothern Seaguard. Looks like as much as the High Elf front line has been broken, so has been the Empire's. As there's not a whole lot left to get into the cookie jar, as once again Karl Franz is getting actually not down Plague of Rust, and the rest of the archers, yeah, they're just melting him down at this point. And we have a full health White Lions of Trace coming in and going to get a nice rear attack off onto the Sigmar Suns. get some good damage option there. We have some spearmen. Pretty much now at this point, they're just going to be trying to screen out as much of the cav forces as they can, and it does look like the high elves are going to be taking this, as the Sunmaker was just not able to do enough, and the Demigryph Knights were able to get really broken down very, very quickly. I'm surprised I even see the Fireborn at the end of this match. I thought for sure they were going to shatter, but Hadries has lost the match, and Ronin will take the game. So yeah, Alethanar, doing very good. I know he swiped out one of the artillery pieces early on, and another one looked like it was down at some point. So I don't think he was close enough to get any more shots off. But yeah, the initial, 121 by the Sunmaker, but this Demigryph Knight just got absolutely destroyed by a Plaga Rust and a net. And then Karl Franz himself, I just don't think was used quite as well, as he just got pretty broken down. So GG, well played, Ronin. So yeah, Ronin will take the 4th spot in the tournament. So yeah, it'll be Imperator. It's actually going to be Alrik Rahl was supposed to be in this spot. His name got overwritten at some point, and then Evan Starr is our 3rd one, and the 4th one will be Ronin. So we'll update the final bracket to show that Ronin has taken the 4th qualifier. So yeah, GG to Hadries and Ronin. That was a very good series. Hadries, you almost brought it back, but yeah, it was very, very well fought. All those matches were very, very good. So yeah, the qualifier, I guess, points, it depends on how the timing is for all of this. Because I initially was thinking of doing kind of a hybrid qualifier bracket where the winners of the qualifiers will automatically qualify, and then from there it'll be like a win-loss situation, and just kind of how that goes. It just kind of depends on how the timing of everything breaks down. So it'll be kind of like, well, if it does do that, it'll be very similar to how my son does his tournaments and how those qualifiers are selected. So, but anyways, it was a very good match to all of those who participated. Yes, thank you all for participating, and thank you all for watching the stream. This one ended like 3 hours earlier than the last one, even though the stream itself, I think, is, what are we at, 3.5 hours now? But yeah, thank you all for joining, and yeah, again, we'll try and get more info on the future qualifiers or playoff bracket as soon as it can, but yeah, that won't be for at least a couple weeks. We will be doing another stream on Sunday, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, again, thank you all for watching, and as always, have a good one.